It was the round after the rest day, and the clock was ticking down for 8 of the world's best players looking to make a move up the standings. Pre-tournament leader Maxime Vachier-Lagrave took a devastating hit from Alexander Grishik, but it was a surging Anish Giri whose crushing win against Liren placed him just a half point behind Ian Nepomniachtchi with 3 rounds to go. The thoroughbreds are rounding the bend with the finish line in sight. Round 12 coverage of the candidates in Yekaterinburg, Russia starts now.
Welcome everybody to round 12 of the candidates. The tournament is taking place at the beautiful Hyatt Regency of Yekaterinburg, and what a tournament it has been, one for the history books, with the first half being played last year. But guys, it is almost the finish line. My name is Alejandro Ramirez, and I am here with Grandmasters Maurice Ashley and Yasser Seirawan to bring you all the action. Yasser, what do we got so far?
Well, we've got a really tough tournament, and we knew it was going to be a tough tournament from the very start. And it's been a tension-filled tournament, but we do have a clear runaway leader. Right now, Nepo is looking really good. Who can stop this man? There's 2 chasers, but I tell you, Maurice, to my mind, big favorite, Nepo at this moment.
No question about it, especially with that tie-break edge all the way from round 1, defeating Anish Giri. Who knew that would have such an important effect on the standings right now? And yes, indeed, there's got to be some victories if they're going to catch him. Nobody's going to do you any favors and just lose games. The players chasing him will have to take destiny into their own hands.
And let's take a look at those standings as we see Jan Nepomniachtchi with 7 points. Now, this is only a half-point lead over the Dutch Anish Giri, but as you mentioned, Maurice, it's that tiebreak advantage. What tiebreak? Head-to-head. That is the biggest and most important tiebreak of this tournament. And in round 1, Jan Nepomniachtchi defeated Anish Giri with the black pieces, and that's what's giving him, in practical view, a full-point lead over the Dutch. Following Anish Giri is Fabiano-Caruana with 6 points. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Alexander Grishik with 5.5 have an outside, perhaps mathematical still chance of making it to the podium. But first place, it's going to be tough. They kind of have to score a lot of wins in a row. Meanwhile, Wang Hao, Giri-Alekseenko, and surprisingly, they're at the bottom, Liren. They really don't have any chances to get their ticket to Dubai and challenge world champion Magnus Carlsen. Let's take a look at the format of the event. It's a double round robin. As we mentioned, the first half was played last year, and we resumed this year with round 8 and on. Very classical chess, very slow. 100 minutes for the first 40 moves, 50 minutes for the next 20, 15 minutes added on move 60. A 30-second increment all throughout. No draw offers before Black's 40th move to ensure that every game is fighting chess. And a prize fund that, as we've mentioned, pales in comparison to that spot to qualify for the World Championship match. And the schedule, we have a round today, and then the second rest day will be tomorrow. The tournament will resume on Monday, April 26th with game 13, and will probably be finished off on April 27th with game 14. There is the chance of playoffs if somehow there is a mathematical tie in the Sonderman Burger and the head-to-head and the amount of games won, but that is difficult to believe. We do not expect a playoff in this tournament. We'll be calculating all of those possibilities as we get closer to the finish line. But of course, we have important games today. Maurice, what is going on there at the top?
Well, there are 3 players who think that they can win it, the 3 Musketeers, and everybody else is just begging for victories. But we have to take a look at the realistic possibilities here. And let's start with Fabiano Caruana, the previous candidate, the challenger to Magnus Carlsen in 2018, not looking like a real challenger. If you look at his line score, only 2 wins and 1 loss. This is not how you get it done. He's gonna have to start getting some wins quickly. He's only got 3 rounds to go. And as you see, these 3 players he has left, Giri-Wang Hao and Grishchuk, he drew them the first time around. That cannot be the line score this time. He probably needs 2 wins out of these last 3 games if he's gonna have any realistic shot at beating out Jan Nepomniachtchi. The next player also is going to need some victories. We mentioned Anish Giri losing in round 1, as you see there, against Jan Nepomniachtchi. But after round 6, he's been a boss. That's what you look like when you're trying to win the candidates. 3 wins and 3 draws. He probably needs a couple more wins if he doesn't want any outside help. If he's going to overcome that tiebreak disadvantage, can he get it in these 3 games when he's got Fabi right now with the black pieces? Then he's got another black against Grishchuk, a very tough opponent. That last round, his handlers are thinking, you better beat the bottom seed if we're going to get it done. So he's got to try to somehow eke out a win in one of these first 2 games. The player who doesn't have to think about any wins whatsoever is this man, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and this is the line score of a champ. 4 wins, 1 loss. Definitely contentious fighter. This guy, incredible tournament so far, and he just needs to get 3 draws in the next 3 rounds, and that probably will seal the deal unless somebody comes up with some hot play. But 3 draws? Look at how he did against the 3 opponents that he is scheduled to play right now. Wang Hao, he beat him the last time around. Then he lost to Vachier-Lagrave, and he defeated Ding Liren. So I don't expect any simple draws coming out of this man. He wants to be the champion. Can he get it done? We will see. Guys, there's got to be victories. It's the only way if they're going to catch Nepomniachtchi, because he's just looking right now like the odds-on favorite.
And let's take a look at the whole pairings for today's round 12, Alejandro.
A huge round right there. Fabiano Caruana against Anish Giri, as you mentioned. Fabi with white, he has to press. Ding Liren with the white pieces against Alexander Grishchuk, probably not the most relevant for the standings. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, meanwhile, with the white pieces, he wants to get his mathematical possibilities still up there. He will have to defeat Vachier-Alekseenko, who plays with the black pieces. A must-win game for MVL, but even then, he's still on the outside looking in. Meanwhile, Wang Hao with the white pieces, no real chances to take this tournament, but can he play spoiler? He does have the white pieces against Jan Nepomniachtchi, the leader of this tournament. Jan, I'm sure, will try to be ultra solid in this game. Yasser, take us through what's happened so far today.
Exactly. Well, we'll pick up the action for this round 12. This position was reached earlier in the round. Nepo, playing his Russian defense, came out of the opening looking really good. Very, very solid position for black. He's given up the advantage of the 2 bishops, but because of the closed nature of the position, white's advantage is just a smidge. Here, Nepo came up with what I thought was an interesting plan. It's like, if you were in a situation where you had to win, then the moves rook c8 and c5 definitely play into that attitude. I've got to win this game as black. I've got to win this game as black. But if your attitude is, what am I talking? Just a draw. You start to think, well, I should play h5. I should take, and I should put my rook on the opened H file. Interesting approach by Nepo. He doesn't back down from the challenge. I personally would have played h4, traded off the h pawns, and looked for more trades down the h file. He played rook c8, and yeah, he played c5. I mean, okay, taking the bull by the horns, and this is where things currently stand. Again, the 2 bishops, white's trying to do something, I suppose, but it looks like I'm going to say a draw in the offing here. The real game,
I just want to make a point, and I'm going to look it up while you do that. I specifically remember one Magnus Carlsen doing the exact same plan to this exact same structure. I don't remember the game. I'll try to find it. But I remember when I saw this, I said, playing c5 and just messing up your pawn structure, accepting the isolated pawn in an endgame. So maybe Nepo has that position in mind.
Okay, well, that's a page out of the World Champions book there. But c5, forcing play. For me, the game of the round is definitely between Fabi and Anish. It's a Sicilian featuring an early 8-3. The players have reached this position. I've been playing around with the position. I just think that it's balanced. It's just very tough for White to get anything back here. We just saw the move King H1 by White, and the idea is to get out of Queen B6 check, followed by Queen takes B2. You can certainly capture this pawn, but when your king is on G1, Queen B6 is the problem. Here I would expect the move Queen B8, attacking the pawn on B4, but more like X-raying the E5 square and getting off the D file. What's the idea? B2 or B3? Take your pick, and then the knight just plops itself down on E5 and says, go ahead and do your worst as White. So I think this game is very balanced. Obviously, as you were saying at the top of the show, Maurice, players need victories, and a draw actually hurts both players in this game. Somebody needs to win. Liren versus Alexander Grischuk. We're going to go back a few moves. Back to this point, I must say, I've seen a lot of games by the very, very top players, including the candidates, previous candidates with this line of the Slav. I never really understood what it was all about. White has some space, yes, but I think the position's really balanced. After Queen C2, B5, Rook FE1, I see a lot of trades coming. AB, AB, Rook A7, and a very balanced game. Finally, the game that French fans are pining for is between MVL and Kirill. Kirill has been generous, to put it mildly, and at this exact moment, I really do like MVL's game a lot. How big an advantage? I'd put it at like a 1-point advantage. The two bishops, open position, but even more importantly, White has even an edge in development and a real weakness here on F7 that Black has to carefully guard. So of all of the games at the moment, it seems to me like MVL is the single player who's emerged from the opening with an advantage.
It's an interesting thing to compare these pair of bishops to the other, right? Because Wang Hao also has the pair of bishops, and we're saying, okay, what is the pair of bishops advantage in chess? And it really depends on the power of them, not only just the power right now, but the potential power of the bishops. And you can see the ones that MVL has right now, monsters. They just cross the board. They're killing any type of counterplay. They're hitting F7. They just do great things, and they're controlling Black's pieces. The pawn structure is lending itself as well. It's asymmetrical, which means that we have the possibility of opening the position even further down the road. Compare that to Wang Hao's bishops, right? Which are discoordinated. They're not really cutting the board. And the structure in that position with an isolated pawn and some weaknesses doesn't really let the bishops shine. It's nice that we have the side-to-side back there, in which you can see, right? The bishops of one side is just completely different than the bishops of the other.
Right. The other thing I would just throw in there, just to buttress this idea that the bishops are really not producing. It's this knight on F1, right? If this knight on F1 was, for example, on the G5 square, or forcing this diagonal open, like somehow challenging this knight on E6. Yeah, I mean, we might warm up to White's task, but because the knight is passively on the F1 square, it's another reason why I don't feel the power of the bishops. Another thing that's basically hanging over the position is this move D4. If the move D4 invites takes, you better make sure that there's nothing bad or untoward happening after Rook C2. That's point number one. The other point is, I'm not really a big fan of playing this move c3, c4. Whenever I see these structures where I've got a pass pawn on d4 and I've got a knight on c5 that can't be kicked by b4, I begin to get happy for black. So at this moment, after the move rook b1, I think a critical line is d4, and it's not the only move. You can also simply get out of this pin with a move like rook c6. Give me your guys' best judgments. How do you, if you were to put a point system on 1 to 10, 5 being dead even, right? Or hold on, how do I want to do it? You know what I'm asking.
Who's better? Who would you rather play?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we can all agree it's in a balanced position. The question is, would you rather take black or white in this position?
Exactly.
Probably black, right?
And you, Maurice, jump in here with your opinion too. Would you, in a practical game, I mean, your clock is ticking. Who do you prefer, white or black?
I think I would take white. I just think white, I don't think white's going to lose this game.
So, for example, after a move like d4, let's just put some moves on the board then.
I wouldn't play d4, just by the way, but...
You would not?
The thing I'm scared about playing d4 is that if for some reason c and d are exchanged without any, advantage to black, there's no rook c2, there's no knight takes d4 hitting my b3 pawn. If I can just cleanly exchange them, for example, something like rook ac1, dc3, bishop c3 happens, then you can start thinking, you know what? These bishops, they're pretty good. And that's what I'm worried about. I think if I was black, I would play d4 in a very controlled scenario. And I'm not sure that I'm there yet.
Okay, interesting. But it's very concrete, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
Give me a move that you think white should play. Did you like rook ac1? Or did you like this? I'm not really too sure, because this was the problem that I thought white was having, that if you do take on d4 and this rook does land on c2, I mean, you could chase it, but practically speaking, that could be a draw right away.
No, I thought rook ac1 was good enough.
Was the more...
Yeah, because for the moment you cannot move your knight on e6 because it's pinned.
Yes, that is the awkwardness of this whole line. Knight d5, and this is where you're kind of talking.
Right.
Like, if I just trade the d pawn and the c pawn, then you start to favor the bishops.
Yeah, the a5 is always hanging, so you have to be careful.
The pawn on e6 is going to hang, right? So.
Right.
Yep.
I would take black, but I wouldn't hurry with the move d4. And I feel like d4, d3 is how I lose these games. I put my pawn where it doesn't belong, and then it gets captured.
Your asset your key asset turns into a key liability. Okay, intriguing. So,
and I think I think the bottom line in this position actually boils down to white's knight on f1.
Mm-hmm.
The whole position. Like, if this knight
passive, could
just pick itself up and let's say go to d3.
D3 would be awesome.
Which takes, as we know, 4 moves.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
If it could just land on that square, like just go.
Yeah.
Then white is starting to feel very good about the possibilities. Like, that's a great knight with squares it could go to and squares it controls and squares it assists in controlling. But that knight right now is hyper passive, and that's black's hope, that this piece just takes too long. Rook c6 was played in the game.
Yeah, and just getting out of this pin makes a lot of sense to me.
Right.
Sets up.
Juan Carlos, he's played the move b4. So
whoa.
Now we have some fight. I don't know from where it came. I don't know where it came from.
Wow.
But we have a fight.
That's a double-edged move. Do you think his idea is to take with the rook here, guys? I'm a little bit confused. What is going on here? There is a rook trade, but this is forked. This is forked.
There's rook b5.
Rook b5 seems very strong here.
excuse me, rook b5 is a very strong move. Yeah, sorry, I was kind of mesmerized here. Somehow you could trade. I don't get a chance to play bishop takes c3 in this line.
Mistake. We could have taken on e. We shouldn't play rook b5. Maybe we should have taken on
e8 first, right? Well, how does that go? Bishop a5, rook takes, knight c5, rook takes e8. And
you
here
might have to take on b7.
You have to take on b7, but I have rook c8 at the end, and I hold on to the pawn.
Exactly.
Or rook b8 maybe was more precise. There must be a way to hold on to this pawn somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, but
still, rook takes. You don't have to play bishop a5.
Now the problem is, the problem is the desirable taking on c3. Whoops, or rook takes e6. Yeah, and taking advantage of the pin on the 7th rank. So maybe I should just set up. Well, I don't like being in this pin, I must say, but I am set up to play bishop c5 on my next turn.
Maybe because of that, I play rook b5?
Immediately to just sidestep, yes.
Or rook to b1 might do the trick. Rook eb1, because you can't take on c3.
Yeah, same variation, right? Bishop a3, trade twice on b7. We'll have this issue.
Okay, but maybe you're right. I still have this issue. I was about to say maybe in this line I have something like knight d8, but no, it was rook b3 also. Okay, continuing our. But
that's a big deal that he played that move, guys. This position seemed ultra quiet.
It did.
Right? It looked slightly dull, if you will. And he was ready to play this move almost at all costs, b4. This changes the equilibrium, right?
Yeah, it blows it up, yeah.
Jan might have felt like, okay, he's not doing much. Let me just trade off. Maybe I get to play d4, simplify. Then dude plays b4 and changes the whole pawn structure. The idea being to take with the rook, like willingly shattering your pawns, isolating your pawn, but saying, well, but you've got an isolated b pawn. That's dynamic play. This is, I might have been a sleepy dragon in the first part of the game, but now the teeth are out and I'm coming to get you. This is big time, this last move, b4. That shows that white has every intention of trying to win this game.
But let's just put that in perspective, because once white did recapture, or if he does recapture with the rook, I mean, again, this pawn structure, you know, it is.
No, but you cannot.
Be careful.
You cannot.
Rook takes e8 in this position.
And after knight takes
and bishop to d7. Nice little geometric trick right there.
Yep.
Exactly. Oh, I wanted to play, just defend my b7, be a hero, but so that makes it even more difficult. Again, I'm just finding myself in this awkward, very, very awkward situation.
But knight c5 might make more sense, though.
All right. Knight c5 defends b7.
Right.
That's
and also
what knight d8. Yeah, that was what knight d8 was all about too, was to guard b7. But knight c5 is a much more active move. I much prefer that.
I do have to say that if I take on e8 and I take on e8 and I just look at the position with fresh eyes, I have the feeling that if I find some move, I have the pair of bishops.
Actually, bishop b3 might be that some move.
Right. And the knight on e8 is not particularly good right now. I should have some way to remaneuver, and I like bishop e3.
No, bishop e3 is great. It threatens rook b6.
Threatens rook b6, bishop d4, knight e3 is coming.
I mean, now it's gorgeous, actually.
But it makes sense, right? You have the bishops, and the position keeps opening up. And this is one of the things that we think about the pair of bishops. It's hard for amateurs to understand that, because I would say under the even 1800 level, knights are so tricky. I just feel under a certain level of chess, knights are better than bishops.
Right.
But when you give it to an experienced grandmaster, you know that close positions can open, and open positions very rarely close.
Right.
And you can make up new pawns, right?
Right.
So you can see that you exchange only a couple of pawns, you make a couple of moves, and the bishops suddenly spring into action.
Right.
And along with the pluses that you already have, by the way, and he's played knight to c7.
Knight c7, interesting.
Which is one of those kind of moves, right?
That's got to be Plan B move. It's not. It was not the Plan A turn that.
Man,
But-
it's so
Okay,
close to-
Knight C7. Knight C7. It does.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
Knight C7.
I'm telling you, that knight on E6, resolving that tension between the bishop on H3, the knight on E6. I like this move. To do that, I think that's a priority. By the way, let me just make sure that I went around the horn completely.
You did.
I did. Oh, good. I want to just once again just jump in of the game of Maxime, because that was the game that I thought White had the best advantage, and we saw this move knight D7.
Ooh.
Wow. I mean, visually, optically, you go, doesn't that just blunder a pawn? But Black, I'm sure, purposely made that pawn sacrifice.
Like counting
Nice.
on rook F8 to win the pawn back.
But it
Why?
won't win the pawn back. I have at
Let's
least
say,
2 ways
But I don't
to
think-
keep it alive.
But
I could go.
I don't see
Here.
how it actually gets it. But what could he possibly be thinking of? He just donated this pawn.
I think it was the lesser evil. I think he sees his practical chances of surviving down a pawn, but with an active king and maybe some active rooks, as higher than the position that we had originally. And
Yeah,
I
and
don't
that's
think I can blame him.
I mean,
So if Black played a move like castles and said, "Okay, do your worst," you think you think that this disadvantage that Black has in this position is less, is worse,
more.
more?
It could be. I think that's what he evaluated as.
Okay, because
we could be
this is a
concrete here,
whole
right?
pawn.
This
This
is
is
a
a
whole
whole pawn.
but I
But
think
I
it could be
think castling
concrete
also
in the
loses a
other
pawn,
line.
right?
Castles might run into E5,
But-
right?
No, castle's bishop D6 loses a pawn. I mean, there's many ways to win the pawn. That's just one of them.
Yeah, I'm questioning also. Forgive me, but I'm also questioning the move B5.
B5, right? Why
Isn't that
B5?
just? If I'm going to castle, I got to do it immediately.
Yep.
But if I castle immediately and I go E5,
And I
knight
guess
H5, rook
bishop.
D7,
and something like
and then you have B5 later, maybe.
I got.
Why didn't you play bishop H6? Why didn't you stabilize and then play for E6?
Bishop H6 here?
I'm not sure what E6 does.
I can
Take,
maybe
You might have to
take
it.
or maybe even
Well, if
just.
you do this, I might bring my rook to D7.
Yeah, no, I don't like giving B7. No. Take
that was
on
my
E6.
point.
You have to.
Okay, fair enough.
But that's why I was looking at this line. Takes.
King
and now-
H8.
So
I mean, I would feel as Black that I'm more in the game
this
here than I
story
am when I'm a
is.
pawn down. But maybe it was all part of this whole B5 concept that Carroll played for the game position. If he has done this, I'm a little confused. Also, by the way, I played rook to D3 simply to defend the pawn on F3. No requirement to do that. You could also play rook C7.
I don't
I
get
think rook
this
C7 is more natural.
But I don't
Yeah,
even get this.
staying
line.
active.
Like what if you're not playing for rook F8? The D file is not what you're playing for. What else are you playing for? You have to be playing for rook F8. Your king is going nowhere. You're not making any pawn breaks. You're not. The only chance you have. This is the only hope. He thought maybe I'd get some counterplay along the F file. And if he doesn't get that counterplay, what is he playing for? Like, and it
Yeah,
doesn't look
pawn
like he's going to
behind.
get it. He just looks like a pawn down. With
Very
weaknesses on
strange,
top of
actually.
it. This is like
That's
You-
pretty
this is
bizarre.
terrible.
Because
Why would you choose this?
It's also, it's not like, being a pawn down and having an active piece, like put this rook on E2 and say, okay, this rook on E2, I sacrificed a pawn for great activity, something wonderful. Where's the activity here? I mean,
And could I
I'm
point
gonna
out
play-
as well?
yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is almost not quite. There's a simplifying line with doubling rooks, right?
so that after rook here,
So I could move the bishop, but probably
you wanted
just
to
take
do this.
This is the argument I'm having. If we go for this position, this is a simplifying line. Then play rook D3 and bring the king up. This probably is not what
This
we
is-
want
th-
because
this
it's too
I
much,
would have.
too much play.
Yeah, just a pure rook ending. this is where I feel like Black's best chances might be in the pure rook.
I would agree with you.
Because the king is actually pretty good blockader after all. But
White king needs to be on e3 there for us to make this line work.
Yeah, I like the idea of keeping the bishops on the board, though, Maurice. I mean, just to your point, I like what you had right here. If you just go, okay, take your pawn, but guess what?
Yes.
Now, I mean,
that's more.
My turn.
So many choices, but rook c7 was played by Maxime, one of the moves that we considered as quite strong, and instantly the move rook hc8. We do have to mention that Aleksenko is in some time pressure, not huge, but 27 minutes for the remaining 29 moves. That's not comfortable. So he's played rook hc8 pretty much a tempo. I don't have to take this rook on c8 because you're not threatening anything. Rook d1 looks normal. I think bringing the king to e2 looks more normal to me. King d2. Just start with that. Put the king where it belongs.
Yep.
I would love to put it on e3 actually, but I'm going to have to face a check. So let's put it on e2 for now. Solidify the central pawn structure. And
this is just a pawn.
This is just a pawn, right?
You win.
And a very good pawn.
Closing in on one result game. Like this is.
Yeah.
We've seen Maxime not be great technically in the end games, but so this is the kind of end games he's supposed to win.
Yeah.
And what a chance. If he wins this game, let's be real. If he wins this game, he gets Nepo tomorrow with his blood boiling, and his only chance is to defeat him.
Destiny.
And that changes the whole tournament, blows the whole thing wide open.
This is the thing that Nepo wants to see the least. For his future rival, still have a chance, and with the rest day to go.
Yeah, shut that down. You don't want your guys getting confidence and stuff like that. The more I'm looking at this position, guys, Maurice, I think the doubling of the rooks was enormously strong, much stronger than rook c1 or rook to d3. Because if Carol's idea is to trade one rook, you're not getting it. You can't take with the bishop because of check.
But I thought we were talking about rook hf8 against rook d1.
Correct. And then after bishop here, we were looking at rook f3. Rook here is like, wait a minute. Horrible. I got a big stick coming here. I'm going to double rooks.
If the bishop tries to move away, let's say you gain a tempo. I mean, actually, you lose the c pawn anyway. You lose a c pawn straight. I was trying to figure out how to defend the pawn, but it's rook d6 mate that I was thinking.
That's the other problem you're facing. It's like what? This is terrible.
I don't understand why double rooks was not played. That just looks so
double rooks.
It felt like you had options after doubling rooks.
I mean, the thing is, this endgame also looks so winning. I'm not so sure about the line that you guys are mentioning. Like rook h1, rook f8, bishop g3, rook takes, rook c7, bishop g5. I understand White's winning, but now we're choosing which one's the easiest one, and I go bishop f4. I'm like, is this really the easiest? King up, obviously.
Yeah, I would say it's. No, I'm just actually. Am I going to mate you?
That's it. If you don't mate me, I'm like taking on g3. I'm taking on e4. So you do have to calculate that you're mating me, right? And are you?
Okay, let's see. Check.
I think at this point I should go back.
Okay.
Because if I go forward, what happens?
I was thinking it was going to be a mate. I assumed there was going to be a mate. No, rook check. No.
I don't see it.
Crazy.
It might exist, but I don't see it.
Not immediately. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Yeah, no, bishop f4, rook takes, king here. I would have thought
hard to believe, yeah.
Yeah, I would have thought that this would be pretty straightforward for White, but okay, if it's difficult, it's difficult. Nothing else to say. I'm wondering about c4. It just feels like I should have a mate. Okay, like I was saying, I thought that the doubling of the rooks was the easiest. Hold on, let me just see this again.
You don't believe me?
Not at all. Nobody does. I mean, what are you kidding?
Nobody believes you, right?
Nobody believes it. Ben Larson. That was hilarious when he said it too, because it was like you know, we were holding court. We had a really big crowd of people watching. And when he said it, it was like everybody just lost it and started laughing. I thought, that was damn good. Nice, Ben.
Bishop F4 move is
Really?
actually quite sophisticated.
It's the only move, because otherwise I kind of resign. Rook c6 coming and it just dies. So I have to give myself e5. It's the way that a lot of these 2600, 2700 players slip away, right? They find this.
Hold on. Rook d5 check.
Is it winning?
I think I see a win. Rook d4 check.
Uh-huh.
Where do you go now?
I think I have to go to f5.
And you're doing, this is ridiculous. Really?
I know.
but I'm alive.
You're barely alive, but hey, you know, where there's, yeah, I could take a pawn, but where there's hope, well, I mean, the king is actually
pretty active. I'll play g5, I'll play h5. Is this losing? Probably, but is this the easiest way to convert?
I don't know. What we do have in the game, and let me just slip back and forth, by the way, is we do have rook c8, and Maxine is just thinking, obviously, I do like your centralization of the king, no question about it. That looks really the most normal. I like the activation of the rook as well somehow. I like bringing my rook to d1. Let me jump back to a very, very crucial game of the round, and this is between the players who are number 2 and number 3 in our standings. And we did see, after king h1, queen b8, Anish, his play in the Sicilian is really getting a lot of respect. He's really learned the Sicilians, the ins and outs very well, and I like his play. Fabi is trying to do something. He's played b4, b5, rook over. Okay. And counter spiel down the c file. Takes, knight d5, queen f8.
Queen f8 is a very unusual maneuver. Queen b8, queen f8.
Yeah, it's not something you see often, if ever, in a Sicilian, but he's just defending the dark squares around his king, avoiding any kind of bishop h6 kind of business. And in the meantime, pawn on c2, pay attention, and we're up to date with the players. Sorry,
I agree with what your earlier evaluation of it was. It seems very even. White has a bunch of weaknesses, but on the other hand, he has this nice control over d5. Black has that control over the dark squares.
Yep.
Hard to evaluate this.
Well, I mean, I have seen so many from the old Soviet days where they would give up that bishop and they would plonk their bishop on f6 and say that knight on e5 is as good as the bishop on e2. And very few players could ever prove that that wasn't the case. So my first impressions were still the same, balanced. I don't see white as having anything special, but I do see a weak pawn over here that white has to deal with. Does it make any sense, a move like knight b4? It's like one of those moves that if I can do a lot of things with the tempo and hold you up, but gosh, what am I doing after knight b4?
I always feel that when your tempo involves removing that powerful knight from d5, that it's not the cleanest tempo.
Right. Okay, just for the audience, imagine, I'm going to do a number of things wrong. Imagine that white gets to put his bishop on a6, yay, for what's that worth? He's defended the pawn on c2, yay. But then, as Alejandro is saying, the knight on d5 has given up its dominant position on the d5 square to protect a weak pawn on c2. And where's the follow-up? Normally speaking, bishop takes e5 is not enough for advantage. I don't know, guys. Looks very balanced. A quick check-in on Alexander Grischuk. Yes, I see what Grischuk is doing. No, I don't understand what white has. So I think advantage black, but maybe
advantage
that's
black.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
What?
Because do you want to take this?
No.
No. Okay. So then you got to leave the bishop on c4 forever, right? You've just got to say.
I mean, I don't want to take right now, but
okay.
But actually, if I do take right now,
let's say
now I have to calculate.
Or
I hate
no, then I'll
calculating.
take like this because no, but then I might allow b5. Okay, then I'll take with the d pawn.
And d5?
d5. Holy smokes! Is that legal?
I have to calculate. I hate calculating.
Okay, this is starting to get very, very
d6, right?
Right. This is starting to get really weird.
Take
I
on
don't know
e7
how
is
many-
nothing. Probably nothing, right, here for white. I take on e7, you take on c3, and
c5 might be worried.
Yeah, this doesn't
E7
work.
might be of an extension.
yeah, this doesn't work.
So you're
All
going to
right.
have to move your rook, right?
So let's start with moving my rook. Usually the rook goes to b1.
Okay, A, B, A, B.
Uh-huh.
And now, just because the fact that this bishop is alive, it does help support the A2 squared. Now, let's
But that's
say
how usually you play these positions, right? You play these positions and you just leave a knight on c3 and black can't ever use the A file for anything. And you concentrate on the king side.
Okay, so let's say I go bishop f6. I don't know why, but I kind of just like trying to induce the move knight e5. Like,
But if
Go
I
ahead.
take and go f5
take,
and f5.
f5. Well, I guess you're playing into what I want. Am I trying to achieve this? I don't know what I'm trying to achieve, but pawn on d5, I've got the open file. Should be good for black.
Really? It's funny that we have such a different evaluation. I'm so worried for black here. I take on e6, I go d5.
And I take a knight, let's say.
I take on e6. Oh, I'm hitting your rook. My rook's under attack. Yeah, I cannot do this. Yeah, maybe nothing actually works. And black's doing great. It's possible.
I don't know. This bishop on f6 is a mighty good defender in these
The thing is-
positions.
What about knight e4 instead of taking on e6? I didn't really like taking on e6.
Knight e4
No,
instead.
no.
After f5.
F5.
I'm sorry. f5, knight e6. Knight f8, knight e6. Knight.
e4. Yeah. We got that.
Easy for you guys to say. I don't know. Rook a2.
Rook
You will
e2,
take on
uh,
f6 and
I'll
maybe
give you
queen
the
c1.
I'll give you the rank, yeah, if you want. If you feel
Yeah,
good about that.
The thing about these positions is the A file is deceptively, like it's not important. It seems important, but you can't really do anything with the black rooks penetrating on the A file. Even when they do penetrate, and it's rare that they can.
Yeah, let's take
I
on
remember
f6.
a game that Hikaru Nakamura absolutely destroyed Vichy Anand on the black side, thanks to the
Queen e4?
A file. Queen e4? No. No threats. I'm
I
just
wanted
trying to.
just bring my queen over to g4 and see guarding
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah, guarding all the kingside pawns. Yeah, no, here I do have, I have dinged my structure, no question about it. I was trying to get my rooks on the A
I
file
can't quite
doing
get my
stuff.
rooks to work though. That's the only thing. To
But
get
you can go h5 and hope.
I'm sorry, H5 and hope?
Yeah, I want to take twice on e6.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works, but I'll start looking at it.
Yeah, okay,
It's
but
not
you
easy
can
for
see, not easy for black. Geez, I'm thinking black is just a move or two away from total domination, and you guys think white's in here with a shout.
knight h4.
Knight h4.
It's a weird position.
It's very weird.
No.
And they're going into rook a b1. As I suggested, a takes. That's the current position on the board. We were mentioning bishop f6. There are other ways of playing this position.
Of
but
course.
for the moment, I would say f5 is a bit of a threat. So
Rook
probably
B-
you want to cover from that.
It's
Yeah,
the main-
yeah,
it's
yeah,
the main
yeah.
threat.
It's the
what white
main
wants.
idea, right? Yeah, is
Right.
to play f5. You've got these double pawns.
And he's
And you
taken on
wanna-
d3, interestingly.
Whoa. Okay, that was definitely not a move I expected. I love this tension of this bishop on d3. I guess Sasha's idea is to
Guys,
play.
we should
Yep,
jump to the game
please.
with Nepo because there's been a big development there in terms of this beautiful knight maneuver, knight back to c7. That's the dancing of that knight. I mean,
Prancing.
just extraordinary. You talk about the other side is two bishops, but how are you going to anchor your knight? And this move, knight to d6, c3 is hanging. The knight is getting activity. Fascinating position by Nepo, and clearly a big moment as he's down a pawn at the moment. Rook to b3. Rook to b3.
It's funny, didn't we have something like this in our analysis of how we transposed to a position that we might have gotten through a different move order? Rook to b3. Help me out here,
We never
guys.
got the knight to d6, though. We never got the knight.
Why didn't he recapture the pawn at once? We are threatening bishop takes d2 and rook c2. Perhaps it doesn't make a difference, but I don't see an immediate refutation to this move.
I don't think there is.
Bishop d7. I mean, okay, I mean, there's some trades, but no, you don't. Okay, he didn't do that. He played knight
a big
d6.
moment. Then. Another big moment.
It's really weird.
He didn't. Was he trying to win the game? A win, by the way, may end the tournament. Yes?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think a win for Nepo is that's crazy.
I mean, Bishop c3 looked very equal and very drawish at that. If he wanted to make a draw, he could have played that way. But maybe he's trying to do better.
Maybe he's better.
Knight d6.
Yes.
What do you play?
Well, we said rook
b3.
b3. The d4
But rook b3, d4.
is definitely
with the idea of rook c2. Yeah. So just this for our audience.
You should take on d2 right away, probably. Yeah.
No, I don't think it matters.
It's the same.
Either way, you get your knight to c4, and
you win a piece.
That's a piece. Okay, well then d4. You don't want to see d4 take c3 showing up on your doorstep if you're white. So
then this is fine too.
maybe Nepo is going to have to. Well, rook b2, knight c4, and you. I was thinking here, if anybody's better, I would prefer to be white because I don't think this guy is as dangerous as this guy. I think this outside pass pawn is more dangerous. But you don't have to take on c3. You can play knight here and take on d2, and then I don't think you have anything whatsoever to worry about. But you're right.
What do you mean anything? Isn't like how do you survive as white?
What?
No, that's
really?
crazy.
After rook b2, knight c4, how do you start surviving this position? Rook a2
What?
you have to play, right? No, but why do I have to hurry? What's your next move?
I don't know. I mean, do I need a next? Okay, my next move might be bishop to g5. I don't know.
But you're going to give up c3.
Oh, it's true. I would give up c3 in that case, yes.
Well, bishop e1 could be bishop e1 d4.
Bishop e1.
Bishop
you
e1
got
d4. You're almost in zugzwang. I just want to bring...
No, actually, king f2, king e2.
King f2, king e2. But if this is true, if you guys are getting the feeling that Nepo really is pushing,
I feel so.
Then knight d6 is a great move. I
think
thought
Nepo is pushing.
bishop c3
I don't think he
was
thinks he can lose this game, and I think
he's pushing.
knight d6 came as a surprise
Impressive.
to Wang Hao, who's now stopped to really look deeply at this position and realize that his demonstration with b4 has not worked out after some pretty deft defense. I would like to point out, skillful. Listen, that knight on f1. Remember when we said, man,
a long time ago, actually,
pick up this knight on f1 and put it on d3. That's what we wanted, right? Just move it to an act. But we knew it was impossible to get the knight to d. Well, not impossible. It would take forever to get it to d3 because this is the worst square relative to a knight. That's close. It takes the most moves to get from the square it's on to a square 2 squares diagonally away. It takes 4 moves. Could you go back a moment, please, before the move knight to c7? Look at the knight just before knight c7 was played. So forward now a little bit, yes. Okay, now take just before now. Take a look at the knight on e6. This knight on e6 might be dreaming of c4. The same relationship, 2 squares away. How do I ever get to that square? Fast forward, knight to c7. Thanks for the trade. 1 step closer. You can have the pawn. Bang! I just found a c4 square. And there you go. Rook b2, we said, was possible, allowing knight. So the knight actually did what the white knight could only dream of. Could somebody force me to d3, please? Like, just make it happen the way it unfolded in this game. And it's just miraculous that the knight on e6 managed to do that dance and get to the c4 square and just have a beautiful square. Very dynamic indeed for black. And I think Nepo is thinking, if I win this game,
wow, well, that would be what it would be. Yeah, it's all but, you know, book me my seat at the World Championship in Dubai. By the way, after Rook c8, MVL is really thinking. Could he be thinking about this move? Taking on c8 and king d2 to e2, we all. Oh, hold on. King to d2.
Immediately,
right? Getting it. Yeah, immediately. Immediately is what we have been thinking. Centralize the king. Just make sure that your pawn on f3 is well protected, and white's for choice. But it looks like a very strange way of play. Could he be thinking about this? That makes no sense, right? I mean, a moment ago we had the rook here and the rook here, and we were saying that's not even the easiest win for white. We don't understand why MVL is taking so long over the move king to David 2. Fabi's position, no change after queen f8. And finally, Ding Liren, no. And by the way, a few moves have been played. Those little moves, h5, just kind of shutting down a few things, stopping, I don't know, g6, bishop g7, making sure that you'll always be able to get to play f5 now that the pawn is on h5, rook a3, queen c2, and we've caught up to the play here.
This Fabi position is concerning as well, because obviously these two players draw and Nepo wins. The math says,
wow, 1.5,
the math
right?
says, the math says, let's look at the Nepo Carlsen matchup.
Yeah, so think about those numbers.
Yeah.
So what is Fabi supposed to do here? I'm assuming it's white who's trying to win, but black might start saying,
I think it's 3 results.
If you keep trying to win, somebody's going to have weaknesses, and C3 has been played.
I'll tell you what Fabi needs to do. He needs to move. He has 15 minutes for 29 moves.
This is
no, not 29, 19 moves.
Critical situation for him. He better not collapse here. What happens if doubling rooks, though? I mean, it looks like, doubling rooks threatening bishop takes d5.
This is the normal Sicilian counterplay on the half-open c-file, right?
Do I have time to take on e5 and say that I get my pawn to d6 if you take on d5? Is that something?
What, like this, Alejandro?
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. This looks equal.
It does. It just does. It looks...
Rook c8 played.
When rook c1, instant reply. Defending the c3 pawn, saying, all right, I'll play that out.
And, it's like these were those endings from the Soviet championships that I saw so many times. They would take on d5 and they just take on d5. And
honestly, you can even give up the pawn right now, right?
I'm sorry, what?
even if you give up the pawn for free, like taking on d5, taking on d5, and
yeah,
after
that's what I'm saying.
Not worse at all. I mean,
You're not worse.
I mean,
I'm not even sure you're equal.
I remember it was a game that MVL played where he just like, it was a Sveshnikov where the guy's got a pawn on d5, and he just gave up this d6 pawn, and he got this dark square bishop. It was from a Grand Chess Tour event. He won it with the black side a pawn down. And this, I don't think, is any problems for Anish after takes on d5. I just throw out this move. I think even rook here is something very, very similar. Again, if it's black to move, black plays bishop f6. I prefer black, but if you do end up in a situation like, for example, here, I don't think that this is anything. These the pawns are so beautifully blockaded.
Who gets rid of the bishop on d6? Like which green? You can't tell me the piece that's going to attack that bishop.
Exactly. So Anish Giri looking very comfortable. Let's just leave it at that for a moment.
Comfortable, but think about Anish's position. He's walking around the playing hall, and he sees that Wang Hao, he doesn't have that great of a position anymore.
Right.
I mean, you see knight d6 visually, and you look at it for 2 seconds, and you realize, well, it's not so fun for white. If he draws, he's a full point behind Nepo with the worst tiebreak.
No, it's over. Come on, stop. In that case, it's over. He's got to. But you know what? The reality is, you can't assume that Wang Hao is going to lose, and you can't start doing crazy stuff and lose the game.
Right.
So what you have to do is keep playing the position. Move by move by move, keep playing the position, and hope it trends your way.
Something happens,
The guy does something spooky, crazy, nutty,
whatever,
and you get a chance. Because if you start thinking, oh my goodness, let me get desperate, especially, how do you get desperate in a position like this one?
I don't know.
Like, what do you do? How do you make it like, whoa, let's play h5? Like,
well, you mean if you were going to play for a win as black?
Yeah.
I would start looking at ideas of knight g6, bishop h4. Idea behind knight g6 is you want to preserve some pieces. You don't want to see everything traded off. Rook c5, rook a5 ideas. Different things would come to mind. I do think knight
g6 is a perfectly good move.
But I will say about that move, I don't know what exactly. Bishop h4 seems to allow something like queen e3.
Well, the idea more or less is I want to just keep a lot of pieces on the board, and when I make the decision to play bishop takes d5, I'm trying to make it under the best set of circumstances for black that I can.
So you're actually proving my point. Make some slow moves.
Right.
Play the position, see what happens. You can't be desperate here. You also don't want to just trade pieces off and make a draw.
But that's what I'm saying.
That's probably the one thing you don't do.
I think in a normal game, you just take on d5 here.
Right. That's
and I think
exactly
that because
right. If it
the
wasn't
candidates is the way it is right now, we put more attention to knight g6.
If Anish were playing me or you, one of us, anybody rated sub 2,700, he plays bishop takes d5?
No.
I mean, why does he need to? He's not worse. Why would he? He could play bishop. If he needed to just make a draw with black, he could take on d5, But why does he need to? I mean, in the normal game where you're playing in an elite tournament with fellow 2790s, and you say, it's okay for a draw with black. But if you have this position and you just want to play, you don't need to play any trades. And if you're and by the way, if you're Magnus Carlsen, do you just play bishop d5 and make a quick draw in a normal position?
I think it really depends upon the tournament circumstance. I mean, if it's earlier in the tournament, if it's very early in the tournament, I think you just like to play and check your form. Am I in a good form? And you just play the position. Bishop, it's weird. I don't even know why I'm starting to think about, bishop to D8. Well, the reason I'm thinking in this way is if I'm going to take on A3, I'd like to take with the queen. It's like, whoop. The queen on F8 is doing not so much on F8, but I don't know. It's
he has to soft play this. He has no big edge. He just has to keep making moves. Find a way to keep making moves. Fabi has 16 minutes for how many moves?
That's the thing that starts to get interesting for me as a competitor.
Moves? 18 moves, yeah.
When I see my opponent spending a lot of time and not necessarily coming up with a lot of really great solutions, yeah, then I start thinking, okay, how do I keep play in the position?
Yeah, keep pieces on the board and let him help you. Let him help you. Don't think you can make something happen where there's nothing. Make him help you. Play some interesting moves. Slight. If you can make a double-edged move that's equal, play that move instead of the boring move that's equal. Right?
I always like the comment from Walter Sean Brown, a 6-time U.S. champion, who says, "Yasser, sometimes you just gotta you gotta give the guy enough rope to hang himself. He can't just take off all the pieces. Yasser, you gotta give the guy enough rope to hang himself."
Right. That's right. That's how chess works. That's how chess works sometimes. You cannot prove that you're better and start, I want to win, ergo, let me force moves home. That's not how chess works. You've got to be a competitor and play the circumstances and let the other player go
hang
find
himself.
the rope. Go find, do some self-inflicted pain. And that's, I think, what Anish is doing right now. He's looking for ways to just keep the game going without further trades. He probably is inspected bishop to d8. He's probably looked at knight g6. He wants to keep pieces on the board.
I would just jumping to MVL's game again from a competitive point of view. MVL wins this game, puts himself maybe in Destiny's chair, as he will have Nepo reminding everybody that MVL was the only player to inflict a loss upon Nepo so far in this tournament. We haven't talked about MVL's tie breaks. If MVL could put together a win streak, wouldn't that just be amazing? I mean, we'd be so shocked, considering what's happened to him in the second half of the tournament.
Hats off to him, but he's a bit far away right now. A lot depends on this Wang Hao game. Honestly, we were just calling it a draw. I think straight out of the opening, right? What could be more drawish than that opening that they played? But let's take a look at their lifetime score. 1 win for Nepomniachtchi. I don't remember it actually. 6 losses and 4 draws. That is a bad score.
I did not know this was
6 losses.
The worst guy he could possibly play. This guy owned him in classical chess.
I mean, I remember the most important, I think, MVL victory over Nepo was that Sinkfield Cup.
Sinkfield Cup, last round.
For the money, that's right. Big time. That's a big time. That's a great stat, by the way. This stat is slightly better, we will say. A lot better.
Boy,
6-1 ownership.
When I think of MVL, by the way, with 6 wins, I'm saying, from Nepo's point of view, if I didn't have to deal with that MVL guy, I'd be number 2 in the world. That guy's cost me 50 rating points.
Look, that's a big result, 6-1. And let me tell you, when you are in the candidates, you've got to put up a number. In the last 4 tournaments, since this candidate has returned to the tournament format, this is the score that won each of these events. We see Magnus Carlsen 8.5, Vachier-Lagrave Anand 8.5. I thought Sergey had gotten 9 actually in his campaign, but apparently it is 8.5. And then Fabi got 9 in 2018. There's one guy right now who can look at that number and say, I can score 8.5. And his name is Nepo. He's sitting on 7 right now. 3 draws gets him to the magic number and possibly the biggest payday. Well, it would be the biggest payday of his life, and history forever will be written. Your name, you were one of the challengers to the world championship title. So everything on the line, that's a number, 8.5. If we look at the score of the players right now, getting to 8.5, we assume that's the number. Who can get to 8.5 realistically, and how would they do it? We did speak about Nepo on 7, but if we can take a look at the scores, we see Anish at 6.5. 8.5 gets him to, he can get there with a win and 2 draws.
Right.
But it can happen with Nepo on 8.5 as well, because
Right.
he'll be devastated by the tie breaks. That happened. Who did it happen to?
Magnus
Kramnik,
Carlsen, 2013.
In
what
2013.
you just showed. Yeah.
When he
There was 2 players on 8.5.
and Kramnik both famously lost in the last round in 2013, but the tie breaks favored Magnus. Fabi to get to 8.5, 2 wins and a draw. He better win now. I mean, that's a big deal. He's not getting to his 9 that he got to become the candidate last time. And Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, well, 8.5 from 5.5.
We know how to get there.
We do. I can count that.
It doesn't
I
look
know.
good.
I know the answer, how he can do it.
And Grishuk, by the way, also has the same challenge ahead of being able to try to jump.
Win 3 in a row.
Win 3. So,
yeah. Well, Maxime, I mean, we don't know absolutely that 8.5 is necessary, but if he could put together back-to-back wins starting today and winning on Monday, because tomorrow will be a free day, his confidence will be through the roof, and all the other competitors will be very grateful. And by the way, the players, after Bishop D7, I must say that Nepo, I am now warming up to the idea that Nepo is in fact the one who's pushing, because the Bishop on D7, funnily enough, is not really participating. And then this knight on F1 has not moved since it landed on F1, essentially. So yeah, oops, something went wrong with my board. I apologize. Let me just turn off that engine. I didn't mean to do that. Back to Fabi and Anish for a moment. This game is getting even more critical that it has a decisive result, guys, from what we're seeing.
and you know, the last 2 moves by Fabi, what I find fascinating is how he played these 2 passive moves. Who would have suspected White is sitting in this position saying, I got more space, I have more active pieces, theoretically speaking, and I have to play C3 and Rook C1.
I think he just didn't find the plan, and that's the thing about the position, right? You have this beautiful knight on D5, but the queen on F8 is covering. That's about it, right? The queen on F8 is covering the entire king side. Very famously in the Sicilian, once the pawn on E5 is traded for the pawn on the F file, and the knight lands on that E5 square, it really kills the play. And without any play on the queen side, because your pawn structure is also worse there, your bishop on E2 being okay, but without any targets, I think he's not worse, but he didn't find a plan that was active, and he said, well, I got to defend my pawn, what to do? But I'm sure that was not the way that he wanted to play that position.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, you sit in this position and you've played a lot of attacking moves. Like you said, he's played, oops, excuse me, that came out wrong. He has played the move F2, F4. He's brought his queen over to the queen to D3 to G3, eyeballing opportunities. I don't know whether they be with Bishop G4, Bishop H5. He's been in aggressive mode, right? And suddenly these last 2 moves is kind of an indication, well, all your aggression has been well met, and black is just simply fine. By the way, we do have on the board the move knight G6. Perfectly acceptable, as you said, Alejandro, knight G6, and very quickly Bishop D2 once again.
So knight G6 I like for both players, honestly, because
keeping the game alive, right?
It keeps the game alive. It hurts their chances if this game starts petering out to a draw.
Yes. And let's just play a few moves for black here. Help me out. Bishop H4. The reason I like this is not just because I want to take your queen. I do want to take your queen, but I also want to get my bishop out of this attack, and I do want to take the d5 knight, and I do want to put my bishop back on f6. So in other words, if I could induce queen f3, and that's probably a very, very bad idea, don't get me wrong, it means that there's no more rook rook takes f6 sacrifices that I have to deal with. What do you think of bishop h4? Let's imagine.
Well, we're going to have to see it because bishop h4, queen e3 on the board. We're not so bad.
Yeah, and I was going to suggest rook to c5, blocking the pawn, blocking the attack on the pawn, and just prepping bishop takes d5 so that e4 takes d5 will not be the tempo. And preparing rook e8, I don't know, bishop can drop back to f6. I'm looking at this, guys, and I'm thinking Fabi's slipping.
I like black.
Yeah.
It's like Dream Sicilian, right?
Right. Your king is ultra safe. Look at Black's king. You know, in a Sicilian, think of all those marvelous victories by Tal and other great players. You're not attacking Black's king. Black's king is ultra safe. Oh, do you guys remember this incredible game between Shak Mamidarov and Boris Gelfand? Boris Gelfand like sacrificed a rook for like 4 pawns.
Yeah, of course.
But he had 2 bishops in front of his king. It was like the safest king I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was like a bug house king. And it was like...
Wasn't that a Candidates as well?
I wanted to say, wasn't it the candidate?
That was Candidates in Kazan, 2011, right?
Right. And I was thinking that belonged in the Sicilian Hall of Fame, that game. This game is like one of those games where, you know, Black's showing why the Sicilian is such a dangerous defense to e4 players. And we have not seen the, we have not seen the move rook c5.
No, on the board, Yasser, on the board. Rook c5 already played.
Yeah. And again, I'm just... slippage, right? There was a rook on d1. The bishops are kind of passive.
So what do we do here as white? We need to come up with some sort of plan. I hate your rook on c4. If I would like to expel it, maybe c4 if I can get away with it.
Precisely. That you said the magic there. That rook on c5. Also, I didn't really like to see that rook maybe tickle me over here. But I did like the move c4 because you're absolutely right. I'd like to expel it. But what if this knight comes back and says...
Big question, because bishop b4, does knight take c4 work? Probably not, right?
Probably not.
I assume queen d4 should win some material.
Queen d4, yeah. So that might be the answer. And if we take this guy, if you have to take like this, are you running?
Depressing.
It is. True that. Well, we've got
on the board.
Okay.
Channeling my boy.
You've been working. How long have you actually worked with? You've known Fabi for many years, but you certainly were helping him on his candidates.
Right. Candidates was our big project, and Candidates and, of course, the World Championship match. We worked on and off before that, like looking at some chess, but nothing official. But the World Championship match was maybe 3 or 4 months of actual preparation.
Oof.
So that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, I can imagine. When you think of, okay, you're working with your fighter. Your fighter is Fabi, and it's like boxing. You're working with your fighter, and you say to yourself, my fighter has these strengths. Fabi is like this great calculator. He's this, he does all of these things really well. When you were working with Fabi, where did you say, gosh darn it, Fabi, you've got a weakness? Is it time trouble? What's Fabi's weaknesses that he needs to improve?
I actually do know the answer, but I can't say it on air.
Okay, then we'll leave it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. By the way, clock times, 16 minutes to 24 minutes. Anything else happening in the other games, guys?
And let's take a look at the Nepo game, see if that has any changes. This,
A lot
of
of
course, the
trades.
crucial game with the leader. But it does seem like Wang Hao found a way to neutralize Black's slight initiative. This really does smell like a draw.
It does
Absolutely.
now. Yeah.
Absolutely. This one is.
Well, I think it was actually right here. I'm not saying anything other than to say that this bishop on d7 doesn't feel very impactful to my eyes. And maybe I would want to, in fact, retain the pair of minor pieces, not to capture, because I think after knight takes d7, that was a bit of a relief for Wang Hao to get rid of
But
his
rook
bishop for that
c5,
knight.
bishop
Maybe rook
f4, maybe?
Rook c5, bishop f4. Okay, let me put my rook on c4. Why am I putting my rook?
But maybe
So,
anyway, bishop
Why not
f4, right?
bishop f4?
Bishop f4, bishop to d4. Let me introduce my bamboo stick. Rook, rook c2 check. On tap. I'm just saying, keeping some pieces on the board might have been a better chance. By the way, Wang Hao, if I'm reading that right, is
Yeah, but don't worry, they're very
Nepo's
close.
46.
Only 2 moves away.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, to the time control, so it's not outstanding. But by the way, that's one of, in my opinion, Jan's extraordinaries abilities is his ability to really out-tempo, as in time, his opponent. He's usually the one with plenty of time on his clock, and his opponent is under time trouble.
That one's looking very
But
dark.
okay, he did not do that. He did not do that. He did take on d7 and reach this position. And well, we've been crying for this knight to move, but knight here, d4 is a problem.
It's kind of annoying, this
Is
move.
it a5? I know, isn't it? Well, but how big a threat is this pawn?
Yeah, king f2 is probably...
What's wrong with king f2? It just seems so natural.
Oh, excuse me. No, king f2 looks very,
You just
very
play rook
natural.
c6. I might bring my king over.
Yeah.
This is.
I think that this would probably just be a drawn. Yeah. Yeah.
King f6. Rook e7. What a weird move. What?
Rook e7. I love the rook on d7 being behind the knight.
Funny thing is that if I was white in this position, I'd probably consider the move rook d7.
e7, right?
I would play it. Never mind, consider it. I mean,
Amazing.
Okay, what?
Question what, huh?
So if I go rook a6 and I hit
he's
your pawn...
So he's got a very specific idea. He's got rook e5 in mind.
Ah.
Aha. Thank you for that, Maurice.
I don't know if it's...
No, I think that is exactly his idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's either going to
after
rook e5 or bring his rook back to e2 and do it this way.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Okay. Because it is funny. You're absolutely right that, you know, if my rook was on e7, I would be thinking about wanting to play rook to d7. It's quite a funny move. I didn't guess that one. That is for sure. Rook e7. Let me again just a quick check on Fabi after c4. Some time has been ticking after the move h7, h6.
Oh, wow.
Maurice, you're
that
channeling Anish. You're saying, you know, those little moves, keeping all of the play. Have a little rope. By the way, no more back rank mates for you, and deal with bishop to g5.
Yes. Is it really what I want to do, bishop g5? Maybe so.
Well, you're stopping bishop b4
Right.
because bishop g5 would, yeah.
And
No, but absolutely you want to play bishop g5. You want to try the dark squared bishops. You want to take on d5, establish a knight on e5, and say, hey, that's a knight on e5 against the bishop on e2, right?
that means you actually force the next move, or you actually telegraphed a threat, because I don't want you to know I want to play bishop g5, right? because then you know you need to stop it, or deal with it. You want to make moves that the person doesn't suspect your intentions, but at this level, of course, everybody's looking and seeing everything on face value at the board. But still, h6, all the all the earmarks of a quiet move that has some poison, that does some nice things, that doesn't clarify anything, and tells you, you probably have to move your queen right now. Where to? Right? Where are you going to put it? Are you going to go to D3 and allow knight E5? B3 is probably the square, but it might allow a tempo and a B line somewhere. Just keep wondering what to do. Keep thinking with 13 minutes on your clock and a long way to go to time control.
Yeah, that's the most important part, right? We're nowhere near time control, and
none.
White still has all these uncomfortable decisions. Yes, bishop g5 is a threat, and I need to take care of it. But where's the queen go? It's not like it has one square obviously better than the others.
It would be nice if you had only one square,
right?
As opposed to, where should I go? This, could it be that one? Could it be that one? And the fact that you actually have to move it when you play queen b3, it's not like you go to b3 and say, yeah, I'm going to b3 because
baby,
I got this threat. B7's hanging, tactics are everywhere. No, you're just trying to find the best safe square for your queen to go hide so he doesn't get bothered anymore. So initiative Anish all the way. This is getting scary for Fabi. It's not scary. Really scary is the wrong word, but a little bit
concerning. Concerning for sure.
That's a good one. Concerning.
It definitely, I feel a higher level of concern. And you're making a very important point too, Alejandro, for those players new to the game. This idea of getting a situation where it's what we would call good knight. You put a good, we're just going to make a bad move for a moment. There's good knight on e5 versus a bad bishop on e2. The bad bishop is a bishop that is restricted by its own pawns. It's restricted and it's defending its own pawns. Whereas this knight on e5 can easily be leveraged to other types of play, including, for example, g5, g4.
That's a star.
It's exactly what I like to call a Thor, with a hammer. There are dangers for white.
And what you just pointed out, it may be that black plays the move anyway, right? So Fabi, the pawn on g5 is certainly not what you want. You'd rather have, well, I say certainly, it has its advantages, but it's preferable. We would estimate that the trade of dark squared bishops, without compromising the pawn structure in any way by putting this pawn on g5.
Preferable,
It'd be preferable. But hey, you got to win the game, so maybe you've got to give to get. And so you might do it anyway, because you always have f6, although that's going to weaken some light squares, and the bishop might feel like it has some life. But if you get your knight to e5 very quickly, and then later bring the queen to guard, you might just do it anyway and say, hey, I got you on lockdown. Now, are you just going to be defending this for the rest of your life?
Yeah, what is White's plan, right? I'm going to put a queen on e7, defend both a7, the 7th, and g5, put a knight on e5, and you know what I'm going to start eyeing? g6, king g7, rook h8.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe not such a bad idea to give myself the double pawns. Check it out. I got another idea.
So that's the problem for Fabi. That doesn't just look like a passing threat. It looks like it's coming.
Yeah.
That's going to be on the board at some point. And I'm going to have to trade off my dark square bishop, be left with rancid pieces, this bishop on e2 versus that knight. I can't let this continue.
On the board.
He has played queen to b3.
And we have
Hold on, I've got a big alert.
Alerts. What is going on? We're being told that Nepo is winning. I do not know why, but
rook e7 is the move that kind of confused us. Check. And d4 and Nepo winning?
White, no, this is not winning.
What?
We get yelled at things. We get yelled so much fake information. I mean, he might be better. He might be pushing, but he's not winning.
Nepo better.
Nepo is better.
Breaking alert, everybody. Guys, is there something we're missing here that
but this does look really bad for White.
It does look really bad, actually. This pawn push.
Wait a minute. Why is it really bad? Just
knight f5. That knight on f5.
Oh, g4. my intended G4 will get crushed by knight H4. Excuse me. Okay.
This knight on F1, we talked about it like
We've been
2
talking
hours
about
ago.
this knight.
For 20 minutes, 2 hours. Hold on.
We don't like bad pieces. And that knight on F1 has been discussed again and again. And we said we wanted to somehow get it to D3. It has not moved since the fantasy of trying to get this knight in the game. I would have it almost anywhere else right about now. What the heck has it been doing on F1 playing defense? And knight headed to F5. Rook will be behind that pawn. And, oh, man, black is starting to, maybe our producer, Tom.
Maybe Tom knows more about shots than we do.
Exactly. Yeah.
But maybe you actually have to give up this pawn, right? Like on the A file, which is extremely sad, just to activate the knight.
That would be very, very, very sad. Okay, so D4, maybe I have to take a different approach and say, but guys,
this also loses the pawn. I go rook A2.
Exactly. That was, I thought you were suggesting.
No, I thought you had to go rook D7 because I don't want my rook on D1. I
was trying to get my knight.
I know, but I like my rook on D7. I just don't know where Wang Hao moved it from.
Guys, Wang Hao has 3 minutes and 33 seconds.
Doesn't matter.
40?
He may move 40.
Did he make move 40 already?
Yeah, he made move 40.
Oh, he did.
So
his king G1 move was move 40.
Knight F5, A5.
Knight F. Sorry, I'm sorry. We're currently here after D4. Did you like A5 or rook D7?
Rook D7. I think it's the only move.
Okay. Knight F5. Yeah.
A5? And I think you have to give up this pawn A5 and just force the rook to take it so I can get my knight out of the. I just don't see another way to hold this position. Would you rather have your rook on D1 or your rook on D7? You'd still rather have your rook on D7.
I'm beginning to feel how really unpleasant the position is, Alejandro. This is really getting unpleasant.
Here I'll go king E2 and I'll hope to survive. But do I survive every time? Probably not.
I'm not sure either. Yeah.
No. Like I wouldn't guarantee black's winning, but
I wouldn't want to be.
What happened here? Whose move is it? Is it?
It's white's on turn. White
G4.
G4. And gosh darn it! I was always thinking that knight H4 and knight F3 was on tap, but no. Once you play rook takes D4, it's not a problem. So I did it in the wrong way. Hold on. So maybe after knight D2.
Maybe here.
I just have to start.
Yeah, no reason to bring the king into the game with a check, right? Where's this knight going?
It was funny. I was thinking that the king was going to be a detriment on E2. That was why I drew it.
That king is desperate to get in the game.
No, but here I'll go knight E4, and I'll finally prove that my knight is not so bad.
Yeah.
Knight is finally happy. So the issue here is and he has played rook back to D7.
That was insane. But what else could he do? The rook belongs on D7 behind the passed pawn.
Of course it does.
So terrible. Knight F5 was forced by Nepo. Thanks
instantly,
for the free moves,
by the way.
How
to
nice
Tempe,
of you to just give me all these free moves.
And by the way, you're going to have to throw in a pawn in the collection. Is this like, the
white has no useful moves, right? You can't move the
exactly.
king. You can't move their pawns.
G4
can't move the knight. G4 loses.
Yes.
So
that is just
process of elimination, right?
A4. Yeah.
Well, there is rook D5.
But that's just inviting.
No, but rook D5 loses a piece to rook C1.
Begging to die, which rook
loses a piece to rook C1.
Yeah,
now that is definitely a winning alert. Oh dear. Okay. Knight F5. Okay, so we're back to.
Does it lose a piece? Is there king G2?
You're right. King G2 actually holds the piece because rook takes F1, rook takes F5. But do you really want to play rook D5?
No, I don't want to play it. I was just, we didn't want to give propaganda to the audience, so just making sure.
That's true. That's true.
I don't want to do it at all, but because it looks horrible. But it's already horrible.
Yeah.
E7, rook back to D7. Sometimes the principles hold, right? Rooks belong behind passed pawn. Sometimes they hold. What were you thinking trying to bring your rook back when your rook was ideally placed on D7? White could have had 2 free moves.
Right.
2.
Okay, so now we get to a situation where we blundered a pawn. We coughed up a pawn, but we are eyeballing knight E4 and knight G5 and saying, whew, I'm an idiot, I apologize, but I'm still making a draw if I can play knight E4 to G5.
And you know what's terribly useful? It's a D pawn. The board has shrunk. So the D pawn doesn't stretch the defenses. You know, like the way I did that? D pawn defenses. Oh, you guys didn't catch it. Anyway.
That's so good. I mean, it brings tears.
Thanks so much, yes. I appreciate it. You know, I need all the compliments I can get.
Yeah. Okay, but go on. You like the D pawn. You like the extra pawn. I like extra pawns.
No, I'm not saying, no, what I'm saying is that for white, the board is smaller.
It's all on king side center.
Yes, exactly. It's only that 5 files wide. You want to have a smaller board so your king doesn't have to think, man, I got to go catch that darn B pawn, or even worse, an A pawn that's extra. No, it's the D pawn that's closer to the white king, so that we can see when your knight hopped to D2 and it's got its own ideas, the king can say, king F2, king E2, I'm in. Like, I'm close, right? So that's a very important point in this position, that it's the D pawn that white is fighting, not any fight. As it moves 1 over, 1 over, 1 over, it would be more difficult to defend. So I think white's defensive chances are definitely there, knight D2. And the other thing is, lifting blockaders is a really hard thing. I mean, you blockaded pawns, it takes some specific circumstances to be able to get rid of things that are in your way, right? So a knight, for example, let's say the knight is just sitting on D2 and doesn't move, and the king comes over to E2, as we saw in that position. You're gonna say, well, you know, this knight, the only way for me to get rid of it is to attack it with the other knight. But I can't do that unless it's pinned. Otherwise, it's just gonna get taken. So how do I lift it, right? And so white could even put up a defense where he's dreaming of putting the knight on the king on E2 at the right circumstances, and it's not so easy to even lift the blockading forces. It's just even if it just sits passively, you got to figure, how do I get at this? If the king goes to D3 and avoids the pin, then what do you do to get rid of this knight?
Right.
It's just blockading pieces are really require specific circumstances, like a different color piece. A different type of piece, excuse me. If you had a dark squared bishop, you could attack the knight. That's different, right? Without it being able to be captured. Then you have something, but then it may blockade on a light square, and then you can't lift that piece. So the circumstances are not easy right now for black to make that extra pawn work, even after it happens. At the moment, he's not up a pawn because white is not moving.
Okay, well, we'll leave this for a moment, as we do believe that Jan is definitely the one pressing. Let's go to the game of MVL, because this is a game that we thought that white was in some kind of a easy cruise control and was bringing home the point. Is that still true, guys?
Looks
Well,
like
I wish I had a rook on the board, but
well, it's funny you should say that, because MVL's very last move.
Why do you want a rook on the board?
Was it necessary?
rook on D5, and then you do.
Oh well, that would be over. No.
That's what I. But how do you win this with white?
That is a good question. What is my winning plan here?
That's what I'm saying.
Isn't it you're going to bring your king to G4?
Yeah, but I'll play H5.
H5 is going to happen. That's the problem. The H5 move. After H5, how does white win?
Okay, so let's say I go king C2. So the idea is I'm going to play B3, right? I am going to play B3.
You have to, yes.
But you're not going to be able to take it. You'll go A3, which of course you will do, and you're happy. So let me just play some moves so that everybody can understand what I'm going to do, which is I'm going to eventually get all the way here, right? Okay, you've kept your bishop nicely defending this pawn, and you've stopped my king from creepy crawling in. Now you see why I put my pawn on b2 so that I put my pawn on b3 so that it was never under threat. So intention is clear. Bishop h4, bishop g5, king h4, and an f5.
Is that so clear?
Well, that's the intention.
Oh, king h4 and f5. F5. Oh, you want to trade everything off and get left with the h pawn.
Yeah, but correct. I'm gonna go pick up that a2 pawn, and I'm gonna start thinking of a win.
No, you're not gonna be able to give up your dark squared bishop for my h pawn, I'm afraid. I'm not gonna let you sacrifice a piece.
Are you sure about that? I'm gonna let you get what I think is more than.
Okay.
All right.
Bishop f2. What would you like to play as black?
I don't have a choice. Let's go like bishop d6 or something.
Bishop d6. Okay, that actually forces me to play bishop to g3. I'm threatening f5.
I do kind of assume that king f7, f5 is not something I want to ever allow. So let's just move the bishop again. Bishop e7.
Okay, so now I'm getting my position right.
So now you're going to get your position. So I go bishop d6. I go bishop f8. I keep passing. Bishop d6. I pass.
Bishop to f8. Now, here we stop for a second. Let me threaten king to g5.
That's maybe very important. You don't have a good move here. King d7.
Bishop h6.
Bishop h6 I do not like because f5 hits the bishop at the end. And
that's a tempo.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a tempo later anyway. We can't be nuanced now. I mean, you just got
No, but this is a real nuance because bishop f8, for example.
Yeah.
I don't go ef5. I go king g5, and I think that's an easy win. I pick that up. Your king never ever gets in. I distract your bishop with the h pawn, and your structure collapses.
That's a problem.
Okay, you're warming to the task. You're beginning to feel that there's the defense is getting stretched with this bishop to d8.
Yeah, no, the more I see it, the more I agree with you.
You know what?
Yeah.
That means that h5 was a blunder.
Okay.
But I can force h5.
How?
I could just put my king on g4, and I'm going to go f5.
Let's do it all again, the similar variation. So we want to provoke the move a3, and we go all the way here. And this is what Alejandro's saying, Maurice, is that once he puts his king on g4, you're more or less obliged, right? To play.
Well, I mean, I was just going to go f5 immediately. I don't see why.
Oh, I was trying to put my bishop on g3, but okay, you want to go f5 immediately.
But I think bishop f2, bishop g3 might be the more clinical approach. Just not allow any counterplay.
Because my thing was to try to get the king in, and get to a2.
Yeah, but I go bishop g3
it looks
and
like bishop g3 is going to.
Bishop g3 is.
Okay, so now h5 is forced for real.
Yeah, and then we're getting
same thing, right?
Yeah, we've just transposed to our.
Okay, so let's get to that
previous
position.
cooking.
Let's get back to that position. The bishop is not going to be on h6. Then we said was a mistake. So didn't you put your bishop on? Now
you guys have actually been very, very kind and polite. You kind of gone along with the blueprint. I don't need to get my pawn to h3. In this case, I can just go here right away.
But I think it's good technique, right? Put a pawn on h3.
Yeah, I do
it's going to be attacked.
Right. But here's the problem. Now I have bishop to d6. But this is actually one of the things I was going to ask you guys is, even if I got this position.
You just give up e4, yeah?
Yeah. I'm not, or no, I tell you what, let me even play it gross in a really gross manner.
But here we have to count, right? Bishop G3.
Bishop to G3.
Let's count.
If I
Take.
go here, and I take
King E5.
and bishop. Yeah.
King F2.
Pardon? Bishop.
No, King
F2, yes.
King F4. But I'm too slow.
No.
Yeah, I'm way too slow because you
Doesn't
take on.
Take on B4.
Yeah. That's easy.
So it might be that I'm just winning, flat out winning a bishop ending. And I'm sure
No, wait.
when...
No. Hold on. King H5, FE4, right?
Yeah.
What's your move?
King G6.
G6.
King G6. So you have no threats.
I do. My threat is to push my H-pawn up the board.
But I have Bishop E7 here.
Bishop E7. Ooh. Oh man, that's that clears some cobwebs. Okay, that means I should start. No, then you have King F5. Gosh darn it, that's not what I wanted.
I mean, I'm still looking at Bishop E7 ideas. They don't work right now, but I will look at them.
Yeah, I didn't want my king locked in. When I go king takes H5, the one move I don't want to see is the move King F5.
Okay, so King G4. So go back to King G4. Why didn't you play King G4?
Maybe that is the move. Yeah.
You rejected King G4, yes. Instead of King G6. Why don't you play King G4?
Okay, good point. So in this case, Bishop G5, I'm hopeful that H5, H4 and recapturing with the pawn will win the game.
But it also might be the case that we get a position where the bishop is on D6 and white either has H3 or doesn't or needs to keep it, right? To force black's bishop into the worst square. So at no point did we need to play in this way. We could have played bishop D8, for example, at some other point.
Yes, yes.
The pawn's always on H2. That's the problem.
Well, no, I
bishop D8 here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I like that in this moment as well. I like bishop to D8 a lot.
A lot more than H3.
All right, this is a huge game, guys, and it looks like Maxime does have a technical task ahead that looks very promising for him. But let's get to the big time game where Anish has done everything right. He has managed to trade bold decision after Queen B3. He said, "Yes, I'm going to trade off the dark square bishops. Yes, I'm going to trade off the bishop for the knight, and not E5, instead F4. Not play solid bishop, knight on E5, own the board. I'm going to put a knight on F4. That didn't seem necessary or positionally motivated. It seems far more tactically motivated. I'm not sure where actually this knight is going from F4, except sitting there and looking like a pest. But it's definitely Anish's game as far as initiative is concerned.
Well, let's catch up with the game because we do have a lot more moves and it's changed the dynamics of the position. Queen F2. We have here after knight F4, Queen F2, Queen E8, attacking the rook C7 first, rook D4, Queen E8, attacking the bishop, bishop F3, takes on C4, takes on C4. I'm not really sure that he needed to do this immediately, but let's see what his idea is because now I assume Queen takes A7 is more or less forced. Why would I want to be down material?
Precisely.
Why did he do this though? I mean,
but how does this work out? Does he have a tactic at the end? Like, for example,
well, this is
oh my God, does that work?
Promising attack, right?
Wait, does this work? Like Queen A7, Rook A4? Queen C7, Rook A3? Does this work? Queen D6, Rook F3? Takes Queen E2?
Well, that looks like it works.
No, it doesn't. Queen B1, Queen B8, Queen B1. Actually, does that defend anyway?
G2 is still hanging.
Yeah, G2 is still hanging. I can't defend that.
Don't hate that.
That's unfortunate.
That's a very nice winning pattern. It's funny how
it was a lot of moves. I'm not guaranteeing this works.
Yeah. It's funny how we kind of got to this position. I mean, you guys, well, Rook A4, take a pawn. That's really nice. But I'm also looking at this, and this knight on F4. I was saying that the knight on E5 could also be leveraged for attack. This looks like domination to me. I mean, even if I play an incredibly stupid move like F5 and Queen E5, with the idea of putting a rook on C2 and a pawn on G4, I love everything about Black's.
Oh, it's
position
survival
here.
mode. It's survival mode for Caruana.
No
And Rook A4
question.
on the board.
Oh boy.
This guy is a player. I'm telling you, Anish, for this tournament only, 7 rounds, starting with the first from round 1, has played the best chess of everyone in this tournament, right?
Yeah,
and he's continuing
don't disagree.
that. He's got 2 wins, 2 draws. He's got this game where he's punishing White. White has to try to survive. He's dangerous. If he wins this and he's level with Nepo
With 2 games
after,
to go.
if Nepo only draws, with 2 games to go, I mean, look at this score he's had
That's
since
boss.
round 6. But
Yeah.
from round 8, draw, win, maybe another win.
That would be huge.
With 2 rounds to go, I'd be afraid of this man. Like, who wants to sit in front of him in his next 2 games? And his last 2, he has black against Grishchik, I think, and white against Kirill.
Alekeenko,
Yeah, and then, I mean, would you
That's
discount him for another
pretty-
point?
No.
Wow.
If he wins this game,
Wow.
then you might turn the whole thing around. He'll have Grishchik with black, and we know that could be any kind of game, and Alekeenko with white to close it out. Nepo will feel the heat if this result is a plus
Stands
for
out.
Giri. He's playing great chess right now.
Well, let's take a look at the variations. Queen C7, because we kind of threw that around very quickly. I wasn't guaranteeing it worked. Does it work?
Queen
Rook
C7.
F3 certainly
Rook A.
works.
Does it? Yeah, okay.
Well, you have to take with the pawn and then queen down. I mean, everything is desperation after that.
I guess it's
You
not
can't
that
take
easy,
with the
right?
rook because it's mate.
Yeah.
So you have to take with the pawn. And that's a mate on G2. You cannot move the rook because of queen F3. So that's a given. So your
Yeah, I don't
last,
have any.
I mean, you only have 2 checks, either D8, which does
It's
nothing,
useless, and
or
Queen
B8.
B8, which is not great.
And now after that, you only have 1 check. Then you stop the check. So all that's done. And it's the persistent threat of queen G2. There's nothing to look at. It's over, which means Fabi now sees that. And if you see this with how many moves left?
Queen F2 played, by the way, saying I cannot take on D6, so let's just move the queen back. But that's strategic advantage, material advantage, and initiative for
Thank
black.
you. That's what I was saying about desperation mode. When you have no time left and you realize that tactic is on the board. Again, what is the move number, guys? Rook A4 is move 35.
He has
So
4 more moves.
So he's got 4 more moves with 6 minutes and had to ditch a pawn. And Anish with 13 minutes on the clock. Guys, that's a very bad sign for Fabi.
Looks terrible.
This is a lost position now. Bad bishop, bad king,
Down a pawn.
less active pieces. And just throughout H4,
Might as
which
well.
smells of desperation, but maybe necessary.
Wow.
What a move to see on the board now. Now white is just in
World
hope
of hurt.
and wish mode.
Yeah.
Exactly. H4. Not that I had a better suggestion, but that just,
Yeah, you
You
didn't
were
wanna play
mentioning a moment ago something like G6 and using the H file. And this is one of the reasons why we were just kind of like not going with H4. H3, not good, guys. Fabi's
Amazing.
looking
The
when
bishop
we
is
were
just
talking
terrible.
about Anish and his very impressive play and success, it very often happens that at these candidate events, like you need to get lucky to win them. And when I think about the game Anish won with Ding Liren, I mean, nobody's giving him anything. He's taking it. He played really, really a good game yesterday, sacrificing a bishop, and in the style that he's played, he's had great success, but his games have been really impressive too.
And
even Magnus Carlsen said that was a great game.
And let's add to that. It so happens that we see players trend positive for a certain period of time in their career. We've seen many players do this. Well, Magnus has done it often. Fabi did it as well. Wesley So famously did it when he broke 2,800, that magical year when he won the Grand Chess Tour.
Everything. Yeah.
Right. We see Anish tying for first, this year at Tata Steel, though he did lose on tie breaks, but he played wonderful classical chess throughout. We see him winning an event he normally wouldn't win, the Magnus Carlsen Invitational, a rapid event. That means your instincts are on point when you do that. You can just play quickly and well. And now we see him he's trending positive. Here we see him having a dominating performance so far. He's at +2. He's already gained 10 rating points, by the way, from 4 rounds. And this is going to be some more rating points. Look at that queen move. Whenever you see pieces appear on the opposite color of the bishop, this is when you start being a little bit afraid. You look at that queen on e5, the knight on f4, the rook on a3. The only piece now we need is a king on g7 to make the bishop say, can I get to the party someday, somehow? No targets for you. That's a dead piece. And this is looking horrible right now for white.
By the way, on the Today in Chess green board, I'm seeing a barometer, and that barometer is going larger and larger black. I mean, it's kind of.
It didn't even make a move, and it just kind of dropped.
Yeah, it's like the longer the computer gets to think about the position, unless it seems to like it for white. No, for Fabi fans, and we include ourselves, of course, this is not good. For Anish's fans, they want to ask us, is Nepo winning? Can Wang Hao save the game? Somehow Wang Hao saved a pawn.
Nepo decided not to go take it because the king would enter the game, right?
And I think that was the practical decision, right? Because we thought about just going and after the pawn, after the move a6.
And we reached the position now. So Nepo could, in Alpha Zero mode, put his pawn on h3. I like it, actually. I like the pawn on h3. What do you think of them apples?
I think the only question here is, do you have something against a7 that finishes off the game? If you don't, Wang Hao could hold.
Okay, so kind of comes down to knight e3, right? Okay, let's say I just wait. What does white do for a move? That might not be the. Oh, he might just say.
But I can move my knight, right? Like
knight d2 is
the problem.
You.
That's the point of a7.
Yeah, I guess you can move your knight. Although no, yeah, you can move the knight. Okay.
There are no mating constructions with the knight and rook, where a knight goes to e3, and you can talk about some kind of mating idea. Although knight e3.
Yeah, I'm with you, Maurice. I mean, this position is so bad for white that I'm starting to think I can allow you to queen the pawn, and I'll have, a construction of a mating net by the time I get my pawn to d3 and my rook on the second rank. God, this is really gross. My instinct tells me it's lost with the pawn. The current position after rook a8, I'm thinking h3, but maybe white should.
But the a7 move is. Oh
no,
yeah,
I think h3 a7 is forced. There's no way you give up this a pawn and put the rook on h3.
I agree.
Here we need to fight.
I'm eyeballing d3 as well as knight e3. If I played knight e3 and I force you to take it, that was the mating construction I was referring to.
But then king f1.
Right. That's the problem. King f1.
Yeah, maybe I should force you. Go g4.
G4, knight, and knight. Yeah. And this is the thing. Are you sure your queen can defend against the rook and knight combination?
This looks.
What with my queen?
I'm thinking you're going to take and you're going to go check, and I was going to take the rook, and then it would be rook and knight versus your queen, but it's your king that's in trouble. By the way, h3 on the board.
This one's getting more and more tense.
I mean,
as Nepo tries to win this game.
I can only imagine the audience in Russia is like, I mean, the crowd is sensing a challenger, a Russian
Potential is
challenger.
definitely there, but A7 looks rough to beat. It's just not clear at all.
Really?
And meantime, Fabi
let's
took
go
on
back to
G5,
yes,
which going to naturally prompt Queen takes G5, and there's only some kind of tactic along the F file that Fabi can hope for.
right.
But where does he put his bishop? D1?
I threw out E4, but okay, D1
Or E4? No, okay, E4 is also reasonable.
Maybe the problem with D1 is, I was about to say asked and answered. It's not Rook A4.
Check this out. Queen H6, Rook H3.
Oh, that's nice.
Is that? Yeah, that works.
So that is
I love finding stuff like this.
Oh my word!
But that means that works on all of them except Bishop G4.
Yeah.
Only Bishop G4 stops that. He has taken on G5, and he's that much closer. There's 2 moves before time control. Fabi down to 151, and the Wolves are circling right now as those threats that you mentioned. Who knows which other threats exist that Fabi has to worry about with his bishop. He can't play King G1 because of knight to H3 with check. So there's no auto king move to get your king off this precarious looking square. So it looks like, oh, and you can't even move your queen away with threats because of rook takes F3. So queen can't go anywhere far because rook F3 wins on the spot. So, I mean, what do you do?
He might just be busted.
Bishop G4, we mentioned, is the only way to stop that nice threat, that nice tactic you pointed out, Alejandro.
Yeah. But beautiful tactic. By the way, against Bishop G4, I'm a pawn grubber on our, I mean, maybe it's not the clinical way, the right
Rook
way.
E1 played, by the way, guys.
But grabbing 2 extra pawns, oof, Rook E1,
good enough, right?
It sure looked good enough to my eyes. Rook E1, okay.
Rook
I mean, Fabi just
quickly.
Fabi's just holding on grimly. Rook A8 just covering the back rank so that
that's
the
a
rook
slick move.
Yeah.
He wants to make time control himself
without spoiling the party
and have an hour to relish the position and make his opponent suffer. He's not banking on winning and time pressure or anything like that. He's going to say, you have no moves. I'm winning this position. If I'm going to become a challenger, if I can't win this, then I don't deserve to be.
Exactly.
So let me just be solid, be reasonable, cover everything, and go grind you down. Your position is horrible.
It is. It is.
40 is the next move, by the way.
I just, for our audience, knights love protected squares. To my mind, I put my knight on E5 in a heartbeat. For those of you who want to play moves like Queen H6 and G5, I understand you. Your knights love protected squares. But with this move, Rook A8, by the way, I mean, not to, pile on to Fabi's woes, because they're definitely there. But Knight D3 is definitely a threat. By the way, I'm being told
Think here properly.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Nepo game is over, or hold on. Where we think that there might be a result in that. No, I can't believe that
there is
would
no
be a result. I mean,
as
fake black
scenario today. This is not correct. We've been talking the game is over. How about we get told the result?
I would say white won.
Yeah.
Well,
why would you resign? Moves. You'd like to see the finishing technique. I believe it's there. Don't get me wrong, but you don't just resign. We'll come back to it. Back to Fabi for a moment. We just played the move Bishop E4. By the way, I mean, not that I like the move, but I do fully understand what Fabi wants to do. If that knight moves to G6, get rid of that bishop. is not going to get that opportunity, I'm afraid.
A G6, maybe.
G6. I hear G6. G6 looks kind of good. I'm only worried about Rook F1, right? I mean, there's only one thing that White could really do that could be upsetting, is the move Rook F1.
And
maybe knight here. Just put your knight on protected square, so that there is no Rook F1. What do you think about them apples? Something like, I don't know, this.
And Maxime did win his game.
He did win the game.
Yeah, we're going to have to go back to that.
Okay, he did get in that.
They're slowly updating the games, but I'm being told that he won the game.
I see that officially I got a 1-0. And I'm assuming that he brought his king all the way over here to G4 before Carroll resigned. And by the way, I think for Carroll, this was a game that, you know, there's so many things I disliked about this game for Carroll, that remind everybody the way he lost to Nepo, which was one of those games, you know, I don't mind losing, but I want to learn something from my losses. This is not a game where he really put up any kind of sterling resistance.
He's actually collapsing. He's actually collapsing in the second half. And that bodes well for people who have to play him, like one Anish Giri, seeing, okay, I get you in the last round, and you're not playing well. So,
and with
high hopes there. Look at Maxime just find his way. How is Maxime right now only a half a point out of first? We suspect he will be a full point, but still, the guy's bleeding. And he's still somehow marching ahead, and he gets this matchup tomorrow.
Amazing.
For his destiny with somebody who has been his customer. Incredible. The tournament needed to see Maxime win. Certainly, Anish is saying, "Whoo, that's a good result. Don't keep going too hot, but just at least take care of this guy for me while I keep up my pace." Big time result here for Maxime for the tournament, keeps the intrigue alive.
It surely does that. Yeah, guys, I mean, I'm not laughing. Really, I'm not laughing. I just think it's remarkable that somebody's having such a topsy-turvy second half as MVL. He started with a critical loss in round 8 to Fabiano. You know, like we thought, oh, that definitely spoiled his chances. Goodbye, Maxime. And yet he's still in it with a shout. This is great. By the way, that 1-0 is just wrong. Get rid of that 1-0. The guys are playing.
No. I've been told that the game ended and they're just updating the board.
Oh, they're updating.
Yeah. They're updating
what
the board.
What happened? The board just froze
we'll have
something?
to see. I think the board froze or some problems. But in this position with Fabi, I was just thinking.
Yes, let's go.
Can you go Rook A2?
Rook A2. What? That is a great move. Yes, it's perfectly good because this is winning the game on the spot. You know, I think the way it works with us guys, Alejandro, especially you, it's like, you know, as the round goes longer, you start waking up, reminding everybody that it's early morning in St. Louis, and it's sort of like you get the tactical eye.
But there's some tacticos. Excuse me.
What?
Your back rank, your last move in the back rank is an issue. So what if the bishop drops back?
They're awake in Florida too. Okay, Bishop B1. That's really nice.
Tacticos.
Yeah. What is the point? What is the point there?
No, I didn't see Bishop B1. I just didn't see it. Yeah.
Nice. And for myself, speaking of myself, my behalf, all I got to do is show what you guys are thinking, and I look good. Did you see Bishop B1, Alejandro? No.
Look,
but okay.
G6 looks so positionally motivated. You play the move.
I would play
and now
knight.
rook A2
because G6, I think Yasser's point was rook F1. We needed a move against that, right? I mean, there might exist, but I haven't seen it yet.
Right. And I was just sitting there saying, like, if I'm looking for black side here and I go, what on earth?
What are you guys talking about? Rook F1 mates yourself.
Oh, well,
G6, rook F1, queen H5.
Put it like that.
Little 92 business.
maybe I got too much credit for waking up. Yeah, queen H5, 92.
That's
good
pretty.
game, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice
pretty.
pattern.
That is pretty. So G6, that might just be.
All right, if you cannot play rook F1 against G6, that's over.
That's bad moves because
G6 is the move you really want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put the king on, well, you don't even need to put the king anywhere anymore. But if you could play G6 and just emphasize how useless a piece the bishop is, oof, 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 oof. Terrible, terrible. Terrible, terrible. I don't know. I mean, if I have to play a move like G3 and I don't know, like pray that I could do something like this, I don't believe it whatsoever. I think it's just losing. Oof. But that was some nice stuff, guys. I liked what you guys were doing there with the rook A2, bishop B1, and G6 and queen H5. Very nice. Very nice.
The thing is, even in super desperate positions, there's always a trick, right? That's the thing about chess. It doesn't matter how bad your position sometimes is. You can kind of find an idea, and as long as you have those ideas, you keep on playing.
One of the games I will never forget it. It was a candidates. I was playing in Montpellier in 1985, and it was the game between Zoltan Ribley and Boris Spassky. Look it up because it was such an amazing finish. Zoltan Ribley's pawn up and a queen ending, and he is just doing the nasty to Boris. Boris just doing everything he could to hang on. And Zoltan has played like, I don't know, 80 beautiful moves. He plays one move that allows a stalemate trick. And Spassky finds it. Zoltan sat frozen, like in absolute shock. There's always a trick, right?
Rook A2 was played.
Stalemate.
Rook A2 was played. It's on the board.
It's not the end of the world, right? Bishop B1, you can go back to A.
You got to go back. Yeah, but that's a little bit of a startler. You put a rook on A2, and the guy says, "Bishop back to B1. What did you do?" Man, he's fortunate there's no other square for this bishop.
Hold on. Is there any check and knight? Sorry, guys. Can I just see this? I mean, I'll borrow a page from your books.
You combined us.
I combined you.
You
Combinación. I'm taking the best of Alejandro, the best of Maurice,
and using
them together.
What a guy.
mixing it together and cooking bishop B1. Rook A2 is a winner.
So that actually means bishop D3 is the only way to play.
Bishop D3.
Let's combine, and out-combine. Bishop D3. And,
look.
Now you have the same threats, except you're guarding E2. And the A2 rook is hanging, and everybody's hanging. Oh, my goodness. No. Well, what?
That's crazy. Oh, that's fun.
No, that's insanity, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Well, maybe I don't see the refutation, but
So just a second, hold on.
Wait, what if I just take? What if I just take the bishop? Rook E8.
Thank you.
Rook E8 and queen takes.
And there's no mate there?
Is there a back? There's no mate for sure, but
there's nothing. There's nothing.
The issue is whether that is a back rank thing, but I don't see anything back there.
It doesn't exist.
I was going in a different direction, guys. I was going in this kind of a direction. Now, of course, you can't go to F1. You can't go to H2. I've covered A2, but...
it's funny how nothing about this changes the position. You're still getting back rank.
It's weird, right? Yeah. So bishop to D3. That is a That's a bizarre looking move. Okay, I agree that I do have rook back to A8, but
With no
didn't I then win a
improvements.
tempo? Because then I forced
mean,
you
you
to
could
play bishop to E3.
Rook A8, bishop
Your
D4
bishop is
just
not
a repetition.
exactly comfortable on the D3 square.
No.
It's not like it's like,
Stop
oh,
it.
look what square I found. I always wanted to be on this square.
Always.
Bishop D3 looks so
I was
horrid.
dreaming
But-
of D3.
But does he have another move? That's the real question.
Not
Yeah.
really.
Oh, but wait, bishop C2?
The thing about bishop C2 is the G6 probably picks up the bishop soon, right?
Yes. I would say,
Pretty
I
soon.
mean, I don't really want to be.
Yeah.
I was looking for some alternative to the bishop D3 looks
so funny.
like you're sticking your nose right at the guy's fist. You know, like here,
Right, like
punch
here,
me,
hit
please.
me.
Find some kind of tactic. But maybe it's your only move.
Possibly.
Although Fabi's sitting there thinking, I don't want to play that move.
I know.
I mean,
but,
what am I doing? It's not a real trick because black clearly has defenses against this. But bishop
is there an
D3,
alternative?
I mean, at least he forces the rook to go back. But what are you going to do next? Put the bishop back on E4? Are you going to put it on F1 maybe? Maybe bishop F1.
But D5 is always hanging.
D5 is always hanging.
Oh, boy.
I think you could just go back to A8, force the bishop back to E4. I really don't see a better move than that.
Well,
And then you just go
that's
to the
your
G6
G6 business if you're not happy. And I tell you, I would be happy about putting this knight on the G3 square as well. Knight G3.
By the
and
way,
queen
big
H4.
development. Big
Yes,
development
please.
there as we see Fabi
Nepo?
finds his move. The Nepo game, the move G4 got played by white,
Interesting. G4
where knight
instead of knight
H4
D2.
we thought was just
Curtains.
scrum delicious. But knight D2 would be played in that event. And instead he decided to play knight to D6.
David 6, yeah.
Actually,
Right, so-
I might be misremembering, but I thought knight H4 we just left it on. We don't know if the queen is good enough to defend against the knight and the rook, but it might be, right?
Yeah, we hadn't come to a conclusion. Also, the problem is I don't think we even had a really good suggestion for this. But okay, knight D6. I
No,
mean,
but then you go king F1. What do you mean?
Whoops. Oh, sorry. Then you go king F1. What do you mean?
Yeah, because I no longer need to give up my. I don't need to promote with rook E8 check. Like if you take on D2, knight F3 is not.
Okay. So just a second. I was gonna. One thing's for sure, Alejandro. You're really happy this isn't your position.
I mean,
you didn't have anything to do with it.
It's amazingly
not
bad
your
this position,
problem.
but
It really
I'm
is.
hoping for the best, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, this is not looking.
Knight C4. Let's keep trying.
Ooh. Golly, it's shocking that there isn't just a stone cold easy way here. But okay, fair enough. Because
You know what I
wanted
would
to say
play if I were white, is the move in that position G5.
Sorry, we
I
got.
know
Sorry
knight-
to
knight
our
moves,
audiences.
Knight moves, push, king. No. I was
sorry.
No, when you play knight G2, maybe G5 is a strong move for you, but knight G2.
You like this move? Okay.
I wanna
And
play-
then you
I
just
wanna-
said,
No, I don't
please
wanna play
make
knight
another
C4.
move.
No, not as black, as white. I want to play
as
G5
white, you want to play. I apologize.
Correct.
I didn't understand. Yeah.
because I don't want the black king to run anywhere. So the first check with my knight can somehow. Well, I don't see how exactly.
But the funny thing is, I think you're an actual Zugzwang if I play
yeah,
knight E3.
yeah,
play what?
exactly.
Knight E3, king
E3.
E1, and I play something like.
But
Wait, am I also in Zugzwang? Because where do I put my king? King D7 runs into rook F8.
yeah,
This is silly.
This
is silly.
hilarious.
I remember it was Lubash Kavalik who was the first player. I was working with Lubash. We were preparing for an interzonal in Mexico, interzonal in Toluca, Mexico, and Lubash had a joy for study problems, and he introduced me. I'd never had this concept in my life of mutual Zugzwang. I just thought that was like hilarious. Zugzwang, I understood completely. Like Zugzwang, you're gonna lose. You gotta make a move that worsens your position. So I understood Zugzwang, but the idea that both players could be in Zugzwang, mutual Zugzwang,
You know, the funny thing
hilarious.
is that we all know a mutual Zugzwang that's super basic.
Mm.
King and pawn ending.
King and pawn endgames.
King and pawn
exactly.
versus king.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a mutual Zugzwang. I never looked at it that way. I looked at it
Right.
as the guy's just drawing or something, you know. But that was very funny. This position,
This is hilarious.
if it's white to move, you know, you could give him a move. Yeah, you could say, okay, you could put your pawn, and then give white the move again somehow. You make a series of moves, and then you realize you can't move the rook, you can't move the knight. Then the knight were to move, it's mate on the spot. So that's very hilarious.
But actually,
let's
the
get
fact
up to
that
the
white
game.
does have the move F4 in this position.
It's
right?
key. It's
Means-
key,
means
actually.
that-
Yeah.
That's key
Yeah.
for white as well to have a free move. But instead, this big moment, rook after knight d6, rook to b8, that's a statement move because it's giving away the a pawn. You must take it.
Yeah.
You cannot allow a8 queens.
Interesting that he's thinking after rook b8.
So yes, this is like a Grishchuk rule.
Uh-huh.
You must take it, and then rook to b4.
Is that
And
collect?
And you must then play d3 because knight b5 is not on tap, and knight f5 is not possible. So you must play d3 to keep it. Oh, and I can play rook back.
Yeah, rook b3 just
Rook
collects.
b3. I was thinking rook d4, but rook b3, and give me the pawn.
It's just a draw, right? A little unpleasant, but still just a draw, no?
Just checking to make sure, because again, I'm looking at this. I mean, unless I have some very, very concrete way of putting my knight on f2.
Well, if we're going to do this, I'd rather have white's rook be on d4, so it's not defending f3. So
Agreed.
just do it from the beginning, right?
It's possible, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right now, play this and takes and check and move and rook. But knight d2 is not playable.
Yeah, that's a problem.
King g1 is coming next. Unless you had a knight move like, no, knight b5 is the only disruptor move. And rook to d3 will be always good. So
How bad is the endgame after knight c4?
Man, I mean, you're talking about tricks. There's always tricks, Alejandro. You find a move like knight c4.
I'm very tricky. I mean, I might not have any positional concepts, but I'm pretty tricky.
That's a visual, I can say. So the idea, of course, is you want to get into a rook and pawn, and maybe
I don't know, but
this,
King G1.
this is like
Oh, but
this
King
is
G1
an
is
ugly 3 versus 2. This is
it's an
one I
ugly
really-
one. I think Maurice wanted to play King G1 without rook C1, but I still play rook G2 and I at least pick up a pawn, right?
Sorry,
rook C4.
No,
here.
I'm sorry.
no.
Could we back up? Could we back up? Because I wanted to know the effect of rook e4 check. So knight d2, knight d2, knight c4, rook e4 check right now.
Rook Edgar. Let's
I
say I
just wanna
just
know
get
where
out
you
of
play.
dodge.
Okay.
Why didn't I
All
put
right,
it
at least
on
I got
F6?
your king to have to back up. Because on f6, I wanted to be able to play rook f4 check and save the pawn. So that was the point. But
You save what pawn? I'm sorry.
to
King
defend the
F6?
f pawn if it ever
Yeah.
comes to pass. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no.
You never save it because it's always a checkmate threat.
You're temporing on my rook.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a big point. Yeah, no, that's a big point.
Nepo is thinking, in this exact moment, what you're saying, guys, that if you're giving back the D pawn, give back the D pawn when the rook is on D4 and not on F3. So this is the moment that we're considering rook A2 and rook
Is the best way to play, it
G2.
looks like.
Yeah,
So let's see it. Rook a2,
right.
because this is
Rook A2.
hypercritical.
Rook takes D4, check. Rook threatening the knight as well as the pawn. That's why we played knight D2. Maybe I have to play king G1, but knight D2, Alejandro's knight C4, very visual move indeed.
All right,
And
so
if
take
rook takes, threatening mate. We tried king. Maybe can we give up the H pawn?
Do you? Yeah, I was just wondering that. But can you?
And let's say I make a move here, just pass. But no, I don't think I can
think
actually.
so, right?
No, what if you play G5?
No, but G5 drops the pawn.
But that's okay if we
I
can
don't
go
mind.
rook
Yeah, I
here
wanna
and
play
rook
rook
takes.
Ah, okay.
That's a good move, Maurice. I like G5.
But what if I go rook a2?
Rook
Hold on, rook
A2.
a2.
No, rook A2, that actually.
No, but now I go
not
check
rook
on G2 and I pick up the pawn. And I have rook
correct.
H5 at the end.
Right, and in this case, yes, rook.
H5 or rook G3, they both win.
Oh boy. But this one.
Yeah, but
runs into
H2,
this
you're
one.
not surviving that, right? I'll bring my king in.
I am not surviving.
No, we're not surviving that.
Beautiful.
Okay, so let's keep going because are we saying it's winning?
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
this ending?
At that point, it's winning.
So here, but this one looks terrible. Is it?
Yeah.
Everything looks terrible.
What do you want me to say?
I mean, my king is stuck, not moving, and Black's king is making.
That looks lost, right?
Totally. Followed by G5.
By the way, Fabi played rook
F4.
B1. No tricky bishop move.
No, but that's also very tricky. You're attacking the rook and you're attacking checkmate. How did we not consider rook b1?
Rook B1 should always be considered.
Yes, of course.
I have a stream. I have a stream on Twitch, and I found a game where rook b1 was played in the most obscure circumstance. It's just this profound game where rook b1 is played at a moment when black plays it so that. Sorry, white plays rook b1 so that when black plays knight takes c3 and wins the c pawn, the rook is sitting on b1 saying, yeah, go ahead. But it's not like black has to play knight c3, but rook b1 is prophylaxis against knight takes c3. Like if you take on c3, my rook gets to b5. It actually did happen in the game, and this rook b1 move turned out to be fantastic, and it blew black off the board. King was still in the middle, and rook crashing on b7, etc. And my stream loved it so much that rook b1 became our pet move. And if you ever see rook b1, it's like, oh my, rook b1 is like a moneymaker. You know, it's like a straight moneymaker. People are like, oh, we love it. Tip him. That's great, Maurice. Another, we want to see more rook b1. Could you please make an emote? Could you please make a t-shirt? We want a cap with rook b1. I mean, they're such fans of the move rook b1 that anytime I see it, I'm sure those who are watching now are thinking, Maurice, you got a rook b1 on the board. Fabi must be back.
Donation time.
if only I was streaming right now so I could get a donation. But rook b1 here on the board, and the fact that I didn't see it makes me feel like,
dude, rook b1's your stream.
That's my moneymaker right there.
You have to go back, I think, right?
I mean, it's terrible because you are now threatening to take the rook. You are threatening mate, and that's what we're. Maybe rook a2. Well, I mean, you got a style point. It certainly didn't cost you anything.
Get the job done.
And Fabi took what, 20 minutes, or how long did Fabi take as a response to rook a2?
He took a while, right?
Yeah. So
you know
I mean, no harm, no foul.
If no harm, no foul, you got 20 minutes that you milk.
Exactly.
Put the rook back and say, you know what, you're right.
I'll reset. It's not a problem.
You know what though? Hold on. I can't. So I hope it also refutes, the thing about rook b1 is it refutes queen h5.
Yes, because
right?
there's no check and check, right?
Exactly. It's a very slick trap. You know, a lot of check and I get a check and it's over, and then suddenly the move queen e2 lands on the board, and instead of you mating your opponent, you start crying as your queen, your rook, and mate are all hanging in one move. Man,
I mean, this is once again, that frozen moment of terror you feel when you realize you have plundered the whole game in one move. Oh dear.
Chess is evil.
Chess is cruel. Yeah, I think we're going back. We're backpedaling here.
He
with
ought to backpedal, but remember, we're sitting here calmly saying, you know what, backpedal, play g6, go. Giri knows that as well, but when you're in the heat of the moment, you've played rook a2, I think he resigns, and then the guy plays a simple rook b1, and you might be unnerved slightly. That's like,
Yeah.
you have to completely erase that feeling of sort of self-recrimination that you made a move, that you didn't see the response. That's the thing. You've seen everything up to this point, and suddenly he plays a move and you go, what? I'm stupid. And you have to get over that feeling of I'm stupid so you can make your next move and continue and just win the game, right?
I think in this case, I don't have a problem personally retracting my previous move, especially the no arm, no foul.
But some people do.
Yeah, but my problem as a player, I just wanted to say, was carrying the baggage of earlier play. Like if I was winning, right? And, you know, somehow I spoiled it and the game's even, I've lost objectivity. I'm still thinking I got to win this game because I was winning 20 moves before.
Big
and I press, you know. But okay, taking back a move, I went check, the guy defended, and I go, oh, darn, you know, I got to go back. I don't have problems with that. It's that, you know, feeling like I'm supposed to be winning because I was winning earlier that had me in knots.
But, you know, the thing is, Anish was playing a perfect game, right?
Yeah.
Like he was playing wonderful chess. Okay, maybe perfect game is not really the right way to, because perfection.
No, he's playing as about as well as any human
playing like a boss.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is in the middle of playing like a boss, and every move is just stringing together your artistic masterpiece. Look what I'm doing to this guy. Are you guys watching this? Ooh, look what I'm doing. It's for you to make a move, and then the guy makes a move, you go,
oh no,
I didn't see that. That really spoiled things. Well, okay, maybe it doesn't spoil things. I have to back up. Do I have to back up? Maybe there's a trick he missed. Is there another move in the position? Dang, I really do have to back up. Man, that was kind of dumb. Why did I do that? I gave him an extra move. Maybe I gave him a different move. Can he improve another way? Am I starting to see go? You know, okay, if you're a professional, you go, I back up and you're still busted. That's the reality. But White got 2 free moves. I got a bishop on e4, rook on b1. It doesn't help.
Doesn't really help.
It doesn't help.
It doesn't objectively help, but you get the feeling that was more luck than anything else, right?
By the way, you want a funny one?
Yeah.
I think it's funny. Rook a8, queen a2, or a7. I think I'd rather go to a2, but you know, something like this, and you go, all right, I had the a file too, and he just took over the a file. Yeah, you now have to move the rook away. And thank goodness there's no rook b8.
Just
hold on. Is there no rook b8? What's happening here?
No, I mean, I think most moves win here.
I do too.
I mean, rook e8 was clean enough.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I think, Alejandro, it's time to sneak in a little commercial here.
Yeah,
what do you think?
It's actually our first break of the day, so maybe it's a good time to do it just as some of these end games, they're heating up. We haven't even gotten to the end game of Grischuk-Ding Liren. We'll do that right after we get back. But guys, huge results. Let's take a break before we have Anish Giri to make his rook a8 decision. We'll be right back with the action.
When you visit St. Louis, you'll probably want to watch the Cardinals or the Blues. What about after the game? Heading back to the hotel would be a major error. Instead, boogie through the city and discover the music that gave the Blues their name at the National Blues Museum, Broadway Oyster Bar, or even the legendary Blueberry Hill. So whether you love the Cardinals, the Blues, or the Blues, come play with us. And you guys know I can't play this, right? St. Lou is always exploring.
Can you hear it? It's the sound of hope. And health. And strength. It's the sound of compassion, of open doors, where people and machines are in tune and miracles occur. It's the sound of personalized healthcare and active communities. It sounds like life, and it's what you hear when you really listen. Listening to you, caring for you. We are Ascension.
Be surprised. Be intrigued. Be delighted. The World Chess Hall of Fame in St. Louis is nothing you'd expect and everything you love. 3 galleries highlight the history, culture, and creativity behind the game. Explore chess in ways you never imagined. It's a one-of-a-kind cultural institution where rare artifacts and world-class art play together. The World Chess Hall of Fame. Mind, art, experience.
Founded in 1839, the University of Missouri is steeped in tradition. The recently founded Mizzou Chess Program is a partnership between the University of Missouri and the St. Louis Chess Club. Collegiate chess has been experiencing a meteoric rise at the national level. Through its tradition of excellence, Mizzou has always strived for the best. Mizzou Chess is working towards raising the bar by bringing our institution's ethos of respect, responsibility, discovery, and excellence to the chessboard.
Professional golf returns to St. Louis in 2021. The Ascension Charity Classic, presented by Emerson. Stars like Phil Mickelson, Ernie Els, Jim Furyk, and more compete at Norwood Hills Country Club, September 6th through the 12th. Tickets, clubhouse passes, hospitality suites, and pro-am foursomes are on sale now. All proceeds go to North St. Louis County Charities. Visit AscensionCharityClassic.com or call 314-938-2828. PGA Tour Golf is back in the Lou. The Ascension Charity Classic.
And we're back here with round 12. Let's take a look at the current standings. With one game finish, was Maxime Vachier-Lagrave that defeated Giri-Aleksenko. Pretty clean game, honestly, basically taking a pawn from the opening, and that's catapulted him to currently second place. But let's remember that Jan Nepomniachtchi and especially Anish Giri still have their eyes on a full point. Fabiano Caruana with 6 points. He's barely trying to survive. And at some point, we should take a look at Alexander Grishuk's game against Ding Liren, as he also has 5.5 points. And, well, mathematically, he's not eliminated, but definitely a tough road ahead. Guys, what's happened in our break?
Well, not that much in any of the games. Frankly speaking, Anish Giri is completely winning. I mean, completely winning against Fabi. He did, after this nice move, Rook B1, reset himself. He played the move Rook A2, Rook E1. And here I'm just thinking that this knight is going to go to G3, knight back to H5 to G3. Looks decisive. The big
By
game.
the way, he refuses to play G6. Like why doesn't he just play G6? I don't. He's burned a lot of clock and a lot of energy and a lot of angst and scaring his fans after Rook B1 landing on the board, and refuses to play the move G6, which looks so straightforward, especially after you see Rook F1, Queen H5 check is winning. That's the nice
line.
We could have played Rook F1 immediately, so.
Right, exactly. So why don't you just play G6 and say, dude, you're going to get served. I'm threatening Rook A2 again.
Yeah, and
which actually works.
Yeah, now there's nothing to do, and it's over. Why hasn't he played G6? And he's allowed his clock to also tick down to Fabi's.
Right.
In fact, he's going to go under Fabi's time now.
The other thing about G6 is that we've seen this before, King H2, Rook A2. The idea is you've got this check to pick up the rook, which picks up the bishop. So yeah, G6 looks really good.
Nothing to talk about. Let's look at the Nepo game, because
what I'm saying to talk about, Alejandro, is why hasn't he done it? Why Rook A2 took him a while. He had the chance to play G6 earlier. He had this position before. He did not play it. What is he thinking about?
I think he may be enjoying the position. He's just like, oh, this is so delicious. Let's not rush. And G6. But okay, let's continue, because we haven't gotten to see Grishuk or Ding Liren. But first of all, Nepo, our tournament leader. We thought back here that Nepo had some chances. We're not 100% sure about his decision to put the rook on D3. I guess the difference was that he can now play knight to C4. Isn't it time that we get this knight off the back rank, guys? Knight to G3.
Yeah.
This feels more like drawing than previously. Sorry, like please, Alejandro.
G2 trick. I'm trying to trick you, like.
I'm sure you were going to. I'll fall for it.
D2.
I'll fall for it. Whatever it is.
I just don't see it. I'm trying to set it up, but I'm trying to get some way that I can take on F3 after Rook F2.
So that you could go here and.
But I don't even know what I'm threatening, honestly, if you give me a free move.
Right. So let me give you a free move, G5, yeah.
And maybe you don't have to give me a free move. Like, you can actually organize the defense with Rook E3, Rook E2.
True. Yeah, I'm just thinking that if I get an F4 and somehow unmask an attack against this pawn on H3, I'm going to get to trade off some pawns, and that's what precipitated G5. Also, F4? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't see it.
I don't see it either, frankly. But let's take a look at the game that we have been. Oh my gosh! I was about to say the one thing. When we had left it, it was like basically here, and it was kind of funny because I'm thinking that the one thing I want to avoid as black is I don't want to take this knight when the knight can quickly hop to the D4 square. I see that D4 square is just like, worth
terrible.
gorgeous, gorgeous gobs of material. A knight on d4 versus a very passive knight. I don't want to take on e5. I thought the move queen anywhere backwards to defend the c6 pawn was necessary. He did play bishop takes e5, which for me is a strategic howler. And after de, knight d7, knight e2, I'm sorry, guys, the position is just strategically really bad.
I'm confused.
I'm very confused
I'm
he's planning to sacrifice a knight. Why not?
In the wise words of Ben Larson, right?
Nobody believes you.
How is this?
Still, again, it's like a classic. It killed me at the time. It's still killing me. What can I say? This is not why you played bishop takes e5, but give me a move. I mean,
that was the only move.
Massively
I go
confused about
here,
this.
and
You'll just lose this slowly, right?
Exactly. At a certain time, I'll go king here, queen here, and f5, and then I'll resign.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'll just resign. Those moves play themselves, and this knight on d4 is overwhelmingly superior to the knight on d7. If I don't play knight c5, I don't have a chance, but I don't believe I have much of a chance even after I do sacrifice a piece. Looks like Ding Liren, well, he could be spoiling a lot of people's results, but okay.
Anish has not moved.
By the way, I don't think we ever pointed it out, but the final, yeah, here it is. The way that Maxime won the position at the very end deserves mention. Where is it? Come on. How come my board is not popping up? There it is. Okay. Just at the very end, because we were thinking that it needed some nice finessing. As it turned out, you remember this position?
Yeah. Oh. That's easy.
Bam!
You get
e5.
Yeah.
Oh, and king here, and bishop here, and he resigned because the whole point was that after this, you get zugzwanged.
That's just nasty.
It's like, go ahead, your turn. If you move your king, I'm going to play f5. If you move your bishop, I'm going to collect the whole queen side. So e5 and king e4, that goes to show this ending was really, really lost, guys. We just had nothing going on here at all. Let's switch back to...
By the way, Anish did move, and he said, no g6 solidity. I don't need it because I'm now going to play a beastie shot f5 instead.
Ooh.
Wow.
I mean,
that's a confident man.
It's a move that Fabi wants to see, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely would have gone for the g6. I don't like it, but okay. But maybe it's just very, very concrete, forceful smash mouth chess.
So bishop f3, knight d3, I guess is game over.
Yep, that's a fork.
Don't see anything because queen e3, queen h4. So that takes care of that. And if you've got to go the other way, now knight g2 maybe. Does that work?
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Maybe it doesn't work as rook g1.
Rook g1. King? No, I don't. No. Sorry. Okay, let's just pause for just a second here. How can we play king?
Sure you can.
Maybe go back to a3.
I beg your pardon?
Like rook a3 again.
Rook a3 again.
Because the rook was there already, but
sorry, did we have a reputation for this?
What do you have for king f7? I'm still looking.
This looks pretty nasty.
The g2 is hanging. Queen can't leave. Rook check. You can't leave the diagonal even. You can't play any move that allows queen h4. So you'd have to go to d2 to guard both. That's the only move that guards both, but it lines you up for another tactic. So
The old discover
What do you
check.
do? Rook h8 is just on its way.
Yeah,
You can't move your queen. You have to. You can't move your king. You can't move your queen. Rook h8, knight h3 is coming. Somebody has to guard h3. So rook e3 is the only way to do. Is the only. If that loses, then you're dead.
And
Which I don't doubt you're dead, but
Yeah, because even rook a1.
But actually, even
sorry, if you're going to be mean about it, what can I say? That's pretty darn mean.
Yeah,
is it over?
Yeah, I think so.
That's really grim.
Rook b3.
Rook b3, queen h5, queen d1, queen b3.
Oh, there's a queen d1 problem. Gotcha. And rook e1.
Rook e1, g6. You just got no moves, man. You know, like nobody's moving.
We'll play this move. Someday, g6 needs to be on the board. What's the problem?
Nobody's moving. The queen's not moving. There's mate. The rook is. The bishop can't move because then there's a mate. The rook can't move. Nobody's moving.
Very
it's
depressing.
Terrible. Very depressing.
But wait, what did we do? I don't understand. What happened? F5 was met by which move?
Bishop b1 is
d1.
not
King
not that
f7. Sorry, bishop e1, king f7 was met by rook to e3.
Yes, that was
And
actually.
what is the problem with rook check and knight check? I'm just curious.
Nothing. No. I mean, I'm assuming that rook a1 was just a cleaner win.
No, but this is very clean because you have queen c1. I just resigned. Queen c1, queen f1, queen e3. I'm not even going to check. Oh, rook h1 immediately.
Yeah. So f5 is
f5 is smash mouth chess. Yeah,
that's why he went deep into the tank. There was no way he went deep into the tank because g6 was on his mind. That's just basic chess. He went in there to calculate the forcing nature of the move f5 and found that this is just winning, at least by his estimation. A complex move to be sure, but looks great. Like just
f5 is the move of a very confident man. Let me just say that. You know, I mean, g6, I think a lot of grandmasters would have convinced themselves that was the best move on the board, and you don't spoil anything.
It may have been. It may have been.
It may have been. Move, but f5 is really F5 also works. Like, wow. I don't know. Alejandro, what's your take between the two moves, f5, g6?
I think g6 to me looks more sane. But I totally understand that if you're strong enough at a niche to calculate out f5 and you see a win, you just do it. I've been burned enough where I make this good calculation and I expose my king and everything is under control. And then suddenly it isn't. And there's a perpet. I'm like, why? No. Why don't you just play the simple move?
G6. I'm with you 100%. I think everybody has been in that situation where you can make this, you know, very comfortable g6, set up everything, and instead you've exposed your king for what you thought and calculated, as you said, forcing win, only to discover there was a fly in the ointment at the end. But there's no fly here, guys. I mean, I don't see a better move than bishop b1 because we had to defend against knight d3, and then somebody came up with king f7, rook e3, check, and check.
This is not genius. Just give me the exchange.
Yeah, give me a whole exchange.
Don't trade
queen. Queen takes f5 is just
no
queen f5 is hopeless.
Hopeless.
And you're dead. Listen, we talked about this before. In chess, sometimes there's the best move, and we would like to play the best move, naturally, but what this generation has learned is that the engines show sometimes there's more than one best move. In fact, often there's more than one best move. It'll evaluate and say, you could have done this, or you could have done that, you could have done that. All of those, and he has played king f7, all of those lead to wins. Or all of this is equal, whichever one. It all depends on the circumstances, your opponent, your style of play, your preference. It's on you. You don't have to play just one move. Now that g6 move, we all know what you just said, the fear factor. You go, I expose my king, something could happen.
Right.
G6, nothing's gonna happen. F5, something could happen on the way to the win that I don't want to have happen. It's happened before. But
slip.
a clear, confident thinker, or people who weren't punished as often as we have for making these aggressive moves where you could have played solidly and won anyway. Go, but F5 is winning, right? Like, I play F5, I play King F7. You have to resign. No, the threats are monstrous. You're just going to die. I did it all with tempo. He didn't even lose time. He didn't say G6, your move. He said F5, your bishop's hanging. Move it. Now my king moves. Rook check is coming. What are you going to do? Pure, straightforward black to move and win. F5, even if G6 were mathematically better, F5 is just winning. And that's all.
Hard to be mathematically better than winning.
Yeah.
So
what you were saying there also, Maurice, it always intrigued me, like replaying over some of my games. I remember those moments where, you know, I was trying to calculate a win versus playing a very strong move and just going on. And it's sort of like a lot of times the engines just say, okay, this is +5, this is +4, this is +4. And as you were saying, there's no real best moves. All moves are winning. In this case, it seems to me to be a stylistic. By the way, Rook E3 on the board. I think Fabi's going to throw in the towel when he sees Knight H5. Pardon me, Rook H check and Knight H3. Going back to Ding Liren for just a moment again. Apologies, that is a game that we didn't.
Wait, what?
Didn't look at. Where is?
Wait, what happened? F6
He
takes
played
E5
F6 and E5.
What?
Did he just commit side sui? Like, why would you?
F6.
What?
Wait, what's the point?
E5. He wanted to stop Knight D4.
I guess, but that's one way of doing it. So if I take on G7, where's the counter spiel?
Don't see much of a counter spiel.
E4 maybe, and then you take.
No, I'll take that one too.
Just keep munching. Hey,
how many pawns did I take? Whoa. Wait.
Just leave out a trick.
I don't believe
maybe there was one trick.
Rook H8 played, by the way, in the Fabi game. Let's get back to it. Will Fabi continue to make moves after Rook to H8 check? Because he can clearly see King G1, Knight H3 check is resigned. So are we on a death? No, he did move King to G1, and we're waiting for Knight H3 check, which ends the game. Is there a Madel on the file? Queen H6, King F1.
For some strange reason, I'm not able to move my lead chess. I'm not making lead chess moves for some reason. I can't go.
We've got the board in front of us right here.
I do see that. That's good.
So we got this. Again, Knight H3 does it. Is there some other funky way to hurt the guy's feelings? What about Queen H5?
Queen H5 drops F4, right?
Yeah. So what do we? Queen H6.
Queen H6 maybe.
King F1, right? Is the only move. Or no, the queen could move because.
What move where though?
Well, like E1 maybe.
No, but Queen H1, Queen G2 is checkmate.
Oh, right. You got to guard that. So where do you put it? Queen.
What are you guys looking at? Which move?
Queen H6 in this position.
Maybe Queen B2 after Queen H6.
Queen H6.
No, but still Queen H1, Queen G2.
Oh wait a minute. I'm always getting hit. So maybe Queen H6 is better than Knight H3.
I mean,
Queen H6.
Winning is winning.
Better.
I don't think it matters which one you choose,
so to speak. But style. I mean, style points.
Right.
The
which
move
one gives
play,
you more style points? Yeah.
Yeah. Queen H6 might give us more style points because what is your next move? There's Queen G3.
Queen G3 is the only thing I haven't refuted yet. Yeah.
Queen G3 is possible. I could
that,
play, but in that, no. Queen H6, Queen G3, and I don't get the bishop. No. Okay, so then I don't want to play it.
Sorry.
So I'm going to explain how I blunder these things away. I go Queen H1.
Yes.
King F2. I go Rook H2. I'm like, how do you defend that pawn? And then I get C Rook E7.
It's like,
and I don't know if it's a draw, but it's bad enough.
No, now
maybe you get to dance, but now you're really upset.
Why you ever played F5?
Yeah,
the guy gets to keep moving pieces.
No, now you're wondering why you ever played chess.
Knight H3 is just he sees Knight H3, guys. Knight H3 is over, but he's now looking for style points.
Knight
Took on
G2. Look at your take that
this.
style point.
Again,
Wow.
a confident man plays knight takes G2 there.
Wow, Rook G3 is met by Queen C1. What a smash of a move. Now you can't play King takes because of Queen H1, mate. And if you play Queen F1 and Rook H1, Anish is just oof.
Lighting
Fire.
it up. Lighting it
fire.
up.
Right here. What a move. Knight G, oh man.
What did Sasha Grisha call it? Gangsta chess.
This is
Gangster
gangsta all day. This is
Knight
pure-
G2.
This is crushing.
Yeah, this is just game, right?
That's sweet.
Wow.
He looked at
Wow.
all the wins and found the one. We were looking for the style
one.
points. Yeah,
Yeah.
Knight H3 wins, but style is Knight G2.
You
Wow.
had, Maurice, you had brought up the line of the players, you know, how they got here and their road ahead. And it was sort of like, you take a look at Anish Giri's play over these last 8, 10 games,
From-
whatever
from round
number
6.
it's been.
From round 6
Woo.
to now.
It's
It's over. What a
He's-
smashing finish.
Wow.
And his confidence winning with black when he needed to against the number 2 player
in
on the
world.
planet. There's only one player better than Fabiano Caruana, and that is Magnus Carlsen. And Anish said, listen, I know you were the challenger. No more. You're gone.
Wow.
And now I am on the road to trying to become the challenger. This is
Wow.
an incredible result. He is now in clear first at the moment. We don't expect that to last after this round, but he's in clear first from losing in the first round, from being at 50% after the first 7 rounds. He's just catapulted himself with 3 wins out of 5 games.
Incredible result for Anish Giri. Well, guys, we gotta look at the Nepo game. Does he have chances? Does he have chances?
Because suddenly it's like all eyes just went, whoop. Wow, I am just
Massive.
huge. Unfortunately, I boldly state the obvious. There goes our boy, Fabi. These are 2-year cycles. He's not going to get another world championship crack for another 2-3 years. Quite a blow, quite a disappointing blow after the fantastic round 8 result, guys. Just talk about that for a second, because it's a 2. Well, MVL's still in there too, right?
Yes.
MVL
MVL is got an outside chance.
What happens between MVL, supposing that Nepo disappears, what happens in an MVL versus Nepo tiebreaker setup? How did they...
MVL Nepo? No, you mean MVL Anish.
MVL Anish. How did they match up?
I thought they drew both their games.
Okay, so then it goes to other formulas. Okay.
That could be annoying.
Back here, we do think that Jan is for choice, obviously, but how realistic is it?
This doesn't look winning at all.
Well, I'll make a cheapo. I'll play Knight B2, and maybe you won't notice my threat.
Sorry, which is the cheapo move?
Knight B2.
Knight Boy 2. Okay.
It's there.
The cheapo
Yeah, he wants to get a little Knight D1 action.
on me. Okay. Well, G5. To show
You're gonna
the
fall for the cheapo.
I just didn't know how.
He wants his
Cheapo.
counter cheapo.
Yeah, no, I'm not
Knight B2
gonna
is on
get
the
it.
board. There's the cheapo. There's the cheapo.
There's a cheapo alert, guys.
But this is winning,
Knight-
right?
Yes, it is. I have to play Knight E4, I think, or
I don't understand. Why is he winning? What?
Because you
Right.
drop G5 at the end. Like G5, Knight D1, Rook C8,
Yeah.
King G7,
Yeah.
Knight E4,
Mhm.
Knight F2.
Yeah.
You take,
Yeah.
a threatening checkmate. And in this version of the endgame, you lose G5 for free.
Yeah.
that doesn't sound
No,
very good.
That's not attractive.
Yeah, this is over. So I don't think you can go G5. Maybe you do have to start with Knight E4.
Hold on, sorry. Just convince me. You're going to
F5?
convince. Is this a absolutely winning?
Oh, you're saying this isn't?
No,
maybe not. Huh? Here, take.
I'm not 100% sure. What? No, that's an easy draw. So
That's
that
an easy
would be,
draw?
isn't it?
Yeah, maybe it is, huh?
I mean,
Yeah.
you've got double.
Yeah. No, I'm convinced. I'm convinced. Right.
Wait.
Wow.
Are you convinced? I'm sorry. Could I see more, please? I saw king f4 there.
Okay.
Keep going. Yeah.
King f4.
You saw king
G2.
King g2, king e3.
King f1.
King f1.
Oh,
king
sorry.
No. King e3. King f1.
What?
H4 is a draw, right? Because king e2, king g3, and anything else, I just push my pawn.
Yep. I win. No, sorry.
No, I want to play king e4 in that position, but then you can,
Which
you get
position,
to f3
sorry?
with the pawn on f4.
Oh, sorry. You want to do what? King here.
e3, king f1.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, h4.
Yeah.
Because king f1 allows king f3. So h4, f4.
F4.
Threatening king e2. And
But this is easy,
king
no?
F1.
And now king e4, king f2.
And we have a result in the other game that we unfortunately didn't put a lot of attention to.
Sorry to Ding Liren's fans, but when we left it, it was pretty miserable for Sasha.
And they went down what we considered f takes g7, e4, but Ding Liren put a break to all that counterplay, played the move queen c3, saying, if you go back with the queen, I'll take on e4. That's very crystal clear. And queen takes c3, knight takes c3 is a little bit too many pawns on that king side.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's too many. That's a lot.
And he just resigned. He just threw in the towel.
Files. This is just ugly.
Queen c3 caused resignation. Yeah.
Well,
wow.
I mean, it's not exactly
Guys,
a
this
massive
is
result for the tournament, but at least Ding Liren is out of the cellar.
This is I don't know if we've seen this many rounds, this many victories in a single round before, guys. 3 wins out of 3 games.
We have not, and if Nepo wins, it'll be the first time we have 4 decisive results.
Wow. And we've just seen this move knight b2, setting up this monstrous cheapo of knight f2 mate, as well as attacking the rook. So I played g5 and made a draw, I want to say, but maybe not.
We have to make sure, right?
Right.
It wasn't convincing, this draw.
Wasn't convincing. Okay, besides the move g5, make a suggestion. Another suggestion.
There's 2 ways to stop this that I can see. There's knight e4, and there's rook c8, which he played. Rook c8, king g7, rook d8, and kind of hope that this knight doesn't get to a good square.
I like that one.
And what about, what about king e7?
Oh, maybe trickier.
Yeah, that would have been.
Maybe that's a better move. But maybe king e7, I'm in time to play rook h8.
Thank you. Eliminating this dagger. Absolutely. Wow. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You will not check.
But now with king g7, rook d8, white does want to play knight e4.
And then rook d2.
That's a big threat.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, white threatens knight g5 if the knight gets to e4.
Right.
Knight g5 will just take the h pawn.
On h3, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
white is. So hold on. Black.
Yeah, what is the
pay a little attention because white might also play g5 and drop a little knight f6 unstoppable mate action on you if you're not paying attention. This could draw. Black has a draw whenever he wants, but
yeah, there's always a perp.
Yeah, the thing about this position is we should probably point to the audience. We've been talking about the move rook f2 pretty often, but rook f2 here doesn't actually threaten the checkmate. Although, how do you defend the pawn? Maybe I go. How do you defend this pawn?
I don't think I do, actually.
Maybe you play king g1 and start saying, okay, let's breathe with the king.
But jettisoning the f3 pawn doesn't really bring a lot of relief either. I mean, White's king is still in this very unfortunate entanglement. I mean, if nothing, alpha zero, right?
Your knight's far away. Let's play knight e4 anyway.
So you can play there.
Yeah, that or knight f2. I wasn't sure. Here, knight g5.
Threatening mate again.
Threatening mate, yeah, it's very annoying.
I mean, it really is. That alpha zero pawn on h6, pawn on h3 is coming back to haunt. So we are currently in this situation, king g7, and what we've tried has not been that satisfying. We have just looked at the move rook d8 and convinced ourselves that rook f2 advantage black, big advantage black.
But is there another move?
Alternative. Well,
yeah, rook d8 played, by the way.
Rook d8 on the board?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see another plan for black that's not rook f2 here.
No, I mean, the rook has done its job on g2. It forced the king into the corner. The knight on b2 needs to return, and the knight on b2 does temporarily and fortunately guard the d3 square. So let's take advantage of that and play rook f2.
Well, that's a pawn though, right?
Yeah.
That's just gonna be
Yeah, it's a pawn, and Nepo will push this forever.
A good pawn. Guys, I have to say, I mean, these scores are just, I mean, I'm blown away by Fabi's defeat, by MVL somehow being in the mix still. It's like I'm staggered. I mean, the only guy who's been consistent has been Nepo.
Yep.
Who's the most inconsistent player. When we talked about at the very start of the candidates, and you talk about mercurial players, Nepo's the very definition of somebody who's quite capable of running up a monster score and then, you know, inflicting a self-wound, if you will.
What move number are we on? Rook
we are on.
A.
Let me,
he still has 4 more moves to make, right?
4 moves to
We're
make.
move
5 minutes left.
Yeah,
56.
then he gets another 15
the time
minutes.
control is, yes, the time control is move
There's
60.
still an outside chance for Nepo here.
Outside.
Yeah,
Inside
I mean, it's
Looks
tight.
pretty real to me.
It's very real to me as well. How is...
But we have with us the man of the hour. He has defeated Fabiano-Caruana, and with the black pieces, currently in first place, it's Anish Giri. Anish must be feeling top of the world.
No, yeah, top of the world underneath Nepo, yeah?
So far. Take us through this, Anish, from the get-go. How were you feeling?
Yeah, I was a bit, I'm not sure I did it well. I thought I should, I tried to get my knight on e5, but I think it was not so. It was quite dubious at some point, I think. And then he went for this before b5, was maybe a little bit rush. Yeah, now actually it looks
optimistic. Were you afraid of anything that was not before b5?
No, I thought before b5 was super strong. I thought knight a4 knight a4 or b3, I don't know. But I thought before b5 was very strong. But I have this move queen f8, which is also very good. After queen f8, I'm kind of in control, kind of fine, surprisingly. And then once I'm fine, you know, I have some trumps. I have this knight on e5, and yeah, it made a difference in the end. Now one more moment. I think crucial moment was after knight g6. I think he's still not worse at all. He has either bishop b5 or bishop g4. Bishop d2 was a little passive. Now I unwind my pieces and take over the initiative. Right. I was still, I was not yet optimistic. I mean, I was fine, but I was not yet thinking that I am taking over. But after bishop d2, I was already playing for advantage. Yeah, I've got h6. I trade these bishops. It's very unpleasant for him.
Very unpleasant. He wasn't able to find a plan, and it just seemed you hammered it in.
Yeah, it's a standard position of
yes.
You want to be there. Okay.
Your approach to the game today, you played a Sicilian. It's something that you've been adding to your repertoire. it didn't seem like you needed to force the game at any point, but did you go in saying, look, a draw is fine, or did you really think it's time to score some points?
Well, I won yesterday as well, but I think as much depends on me as it depends on the leader here. So, you know, it is better to make a draw and Jan to lose than for both of us to win, right? So, in that sense, yeah, it was not so clear what would happen. Of course, yeah. So I wasn't sure if I'm in a must-win or not, but I just tried to give Fabiano a chance to play. I didn't want to, you know, play the Berlin maybe and depress him. I thought he's in a must-win. I am maybe also in sort of a must-win. I will give him a Sicilian, give him an interesting position to play, and we'll play that. You know, I'm not going to be the party pooper, as Yasser says it.
Well, Yasser was the one that was telling us you got to give your opponent some rope, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you want to play for a win with black, you cannot really play for a win with black, but you can allow white to play for a win, and that's the first step, perhaps.
Turning our attention to the game of Nepo, the current position on the board. If I can pick your brain a little bit here, Anish, what's your first impression?
What is it? 93-92, yeah? It's a draw. 93-92 is a draw. Wow, maybe
93-92 is a draw.
And knight f1, right? I think Hao might have found. Okay, I need your bar there to be sure, but I think Hao might have.
That's cheating.
No, bar after the game is not cheating. Bar during the game is cheating. This is fine. It's fine. But it's okay. Of course, Jan will play some other move. There is knight c4. There is rook e3. There is a bunch of moves. I don't know. It could be lost, but rook f4. I have knight f2. Rook f4 is not a good move. But knight c4 or yeah, rook e3, the move you made. That's also not so dumb, perhaps. But I do like the king in the cage, though. I do like the king. So how is knight c4?
Rook e3, by the way, played already by Nepo.
Yeah, I have
on the board.
We are not yet in a. We are not in the win-loss territory yet. I think it's still ongoing. You know, I think the game is still continuing. Definitely, Jan is. Maybe Jan is winning. I don't know. Maybe he's winning. At the very least, it's not a draw. At the very least, it's not a draw. But he could be already winning. What do you guys think?
Could be winning. He could be winning. My first knee-jerk reaction is it's a win because of the pawn on h3 and the weak, well, the vulnerable king. But that's not your problem, Anish. Your problem is you've got 2 games remaining. You've given yourself an enormous opportunity, and we just want to say thank you for sharing some time with us and to wish you really great luck in your remaining 2 games.
Absolutely, Anish. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anish Giri, what an amazing performance here in the second half of the tournament. Round robin number 2, if you were to call it like that. Look at that, a +3 score in the last 5 rounds. Guys, that's what it takes to challenge Magnus Carlsen.
I mean, he had his critics, but the haters are turning into fans. I got to tell you something. You put that kind of score up, boy, that is from a chess, that's lighting it up. Guys, that's just an amazing score. I think that's like, what, a 3,100 result over these last 8 games or so.
The last 5, especially 3 wins.
Woo!
Out of 5. He's gained 15.5 rating points. He's now number 4 in the world, just a whisper behind Nepo, we should point out. Though Nepo being number 3, Fabio, of course, number 2. He's having the star tournament right now. But
let's
Nepo,
put that board up so we can talk and keep watching, because Wang Hao is in time pressure, and this is the game. Let's not let go of the board. We have the move rook e3, knight g3 played. Wang Hao with 4 minutes to make move 60. That shouldn't be too difficult, but he is under pressure.
Though knight g3, although from the moment the g pawn is barely alive. That pawn on G4 looks like scrumptious.
Tempting.
This looks like a tough position. If Nepo could win this, of course, it changes the tournament yet again.
Wow. I mean, I just feel like we're watching, different models. Like they have these computer models. What would happen in 25,000, universes? And then suddenly you go, oh, that's an interesting universe. Let's go there. And every round seems to bring out new possibilities. And for Anish Giri's fans, this has just been wow.
Can't really ask for more, right?
No, yeah. How's it? Wow.
3 out of 5.
Wow.
3 out of 5. Beating Fabio with black.
Wow.
That's a Magnusian result, if you will.
Magnusian.
I mean, it's just fabulous. And
his road ahead.
Two players who lost today. Both Grischuk and Aleksenko lost today. So they're not feeling great about their tournament. Grischuk now is mathematically eliminated 100%. And Aleksenko not playing well, as we've seen some bad games for his level. Anish has got to be licking his chops. And if not him, at least his handlers are thinking, okay, we just got to keep him doing the same. Don't mess with whatever the formula is they're doing right now. We got to keep doing the same thing. More of this should net him the fabulous result. But Nepo.
Can Nepo bring it? That's the question, right? Can Nepo bring it? Can Nepo keep up the pace?
I mean, I'm just like, no, this would be amazing if it came down to that first game of the first round. Nepo won against Anish, and everybody said, very nice. Yeah, very nice. And but could it be that's the tie-breaking result that gives the challenger to Nepo? And it's amazing. It's amazing, guys. By the way, Rook A3 on the board. Setting up for knight and rook A1.
And one more move to time control.
That looks like a really good move. Looks like a really good move to my eyes. I like this move a lot as I'm seeing knight D3 and rook A1.
The rook has to go to E8.
As the threat. What am I supposed to do? How do I meet that?
The rook has to have access.
The rook goes to E8. The knight goes to D3. I'm threatening.
Well, knight F1 can always happen.
Down.
So rook to E3.
Jeez, thank you, Maurice. Jeez. Knight F1, but is that what you want? Your knight
Tell me what I want.
There's nothing about this position is what you want.
It's what you want. No, you're not happy. Your knight is. This is and let's cement that knight. And
What?
We have a breaking news.
What?
Wang Hao didn't see a move and he resigned.
What?
He did not see a move. He has resigned the game.
Wait, what?
No.
Are you serious?
It is over, and Nepo maintains his half-a-point lead, which we know is an effective 1-point lead over Giri, despite this fantastic result by Giri. It may not be enough as the runaway train of Jan Nepo-Wang.
I'm sorry. What? He resigned?
He resigned.
What?
He did. Well, what do you do if you don't play Rook E8?
But you play Rook E8.
We're grandmasters. I mean, come on. I mean, you're a pawn down.
Funny.
It's ugly. I get it. But this is not resigns. This is like, okay, I mean, I'm going to play to some bitter losing position. Resigns?
What? That's a stunning result.
What? Or was it a clock?
No, he had time.
No?
What?
Oh, I'm confused. Yes, the position is bad, very bad. Losing, possibly, but why resign? I mean, your opponent should still show you his victory, shouldn't he?
Yes, absolutely. That's resignation too soon.
That is premature by far. Guys, our first 4-0 round, and what a time for it to happen. The day before the free day, the tournament is just become crazy. Help.
Well,
help,
actually, with a win, the tournament has actually
Nepo.
changed.
Yeah, because Nepo has a full point ahead over the only person that can catch him.
Correct.
Anish, well, yet,
he
wait a
has
minute, MVL.
He has a
wait a
technical
minute.
full point ahead, technical, but he has a real 1.5 point. Like, what's the score? MVL is down a point and a half.
We probably have the standings. It doesn't matter if the Nepo game isn't
point?
counted. We can math it out. If we can just be shown.
Because what I'm saying is a win by here we go.
I mean, he's a point and a half ahead of MVL.
He's a point and a half ahead of MVL. That's the number. He's not on a technicality. He's a point ahead of Giri because he beat Giri.
He
So
has
Giri
draw odds. Yeah.
Right. So he has draw odds against Giri. But the key is that MVL has to beat him.
Right.
And Giri has to win. Not
for Anish to be challenger, he's got to win it clear. He's got to be.
A draw is not, he can't draw and then have the same result as Nepo. MVL with the black pieces has to beat Nepo.
And Giri has to not lose, but draw or win against Grishuk, and he needs MVL to come through. And look at that, 1-6.
And with a man, by the way, Nepo will be very motivated to draw this game. Hyper motivated to draw. And as far as Anish is concerned, Anish is in a must-win situation tomorrow, period.
Again, on
games in a row.
Tomorrow is his free day.
He must win, and he will have some chances against Aleksenko. But against Grishuk, he's hoping Grishuk is torpedoing right now. Anish must beat Grishuk tomorrow. A draw and a prayer will not help. Because the problem is, if he draws and Nepo draws, the tournament's over.
Well,
it's actually over. He'll be a half a point behind. It'll be a draw. Nepo will hit 8.5. Well, it means Nepo would have to lose the last game. He would have to lose to Ding Liren. It's possible.
It's possible.
Nepo has two tough opponents, Maxime and Ding Liren. It's possible. Nepo could lose a game. Nepo could lose in one of the next two. So it's not over. It actually isn't over. Nepo could lose one of the next two games. Anish has to win one and Nepo has to lose one. That's actually not that severe. It's still a tournament. They're the only two who could do it though, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, MVL, he has to win, and then things have to happen.
Lots would have to happen.
Well, guys, I got to tell you, we've got 2 tension-filled rounds to go in this tournament to determine the challenger to Magnus Carlsen. Incredible. And I've got to say, guys, this is the kind of action that we commentators live for. 4 out of 4. You can't do better than that.
Well, guys, remember, tomorrow is a rest day, so don't tune in. Everybody will be preparing for their games to be played on Monday. That's game 13, crucial round, of course, for the leaders, but also MVL, if he still wants to have a say in this tournament. I'm sure he'll prepare hard, try to beat Nepomniachtchi with the black pieces. Wow, guys, what?
Wow,
I'm still a little bit. I'm shell-shocked that he resigned, to be honest.
I know.
I can't get over that.
Be here another hour.
I was thinking maybe no brunch today. Yeah.
Yeah, table-based. Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Well, sad day for American fans.
Oh, yeah.
And fans in many places in the world who like Fabiano Caruana's play. He is officially eliminated. There is no imagine. I mean, is it 100% official? It would require a full-scale collapse
by all the tournament leaders.
3 tournament leaders, but 2 of them play each other.
Yeah.
Don't even try.
So I'm trying to figure out how it would work. I think maybe he's not mathematically out, actually. He's not mathematically out because MVL could win and lose. He would have to win both games. MVL could win and lose. Nepo would have to lose both. And Anish would have to also do something horrible. So maybe there's a 1% somewhere math chance for Fabi.
Yeah, that would work out. That's all that needs to happen, right?
Yeah, right. I mean,
Wait a minute, just a second. Fabi would have to win both of his games. That would give him 8 points. Jan would have to lose both of his games. Anish
would have to only score a half a point.
But MVL has to win against Nepo,
And
so that's
MVL
going to give
beats Nepo, and then doesn't do better than a win, better than a draw. Actually, we could have a 4-way tie for first, and then see the tie break.
I am Fabi's biggest fan, and you guys need to stop. You guys need to stop.
Let's just call it. Let's call it 0.03%. All right.
Mission impossible.
The bettors will give you 100,000 to 1. Okay, maybe not that severe, but that's a bad bet. But MVL is in it if he beats Nepo. He's got. I mean, that's his last chance. He's got to. That's going to be a big game.
Well, guys, remember, we do have more chess coming up in the summer as the Grand Chess Tour returns. We have Romania will be the first stop for the Grand Chess Tour with the classical Super Bet, June 3rd to the 15th, and it'll be immediately followed by Paris Rapid and Blitz, of course, in Paris, France, a classical stop in the Grand Chess Tour ever since its actually not its inception, but in the first few years. Croatia Rapid and Blitz, changing up the format. In 2019, it was a classical event. Now they're going to Rapid and Blitz, and we'll wrap up the Grand Chess Tour this year in St. Louis with the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, followed, of course, by the Singfield Cup, which we love so much.
Absolutely. Yep.
And we will see you not tomorrow. Tune in on Monday. Same time, we'll be here commentating crucial games. Who will challenge Magnus Carlsen later this year? Only 2 days to find out.
Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you on Monday.